Chapter 996. Su Fang had heard of the internal selection before. The constellation of 9 heavens competition was a grand event. The requirement to participate was to be a cave immortal. Only disciples who had cultivated for 10,000 years could participate. If one had cultivated for more than 20,000 years and had participated in the previous competition, they would not be qualified to participate again. 10,000 years. On the surface, it looked quite fair. Disciples like Baby Huangfu, who had cultivated for 1,000 years, were naturally at a disadvantage. Many disciples had cultivated for more than 5,000 years. Regardless of cultivation, mystical abilities, or strength, they were all cave immortals. Very few disciples who had been in Star Palace for less than 5,000 years signed up. Those who had cultivated for 5,000 years were naturally no match for those who had cultivated for close to 10,000 years. Before the competition, the 9 dojos would conduct an internal selection. It was a test. Only disciples who passed the test could officially sign up and participate in the competition. Su Fang roughly understood this. After leaving the pavilion, he met up with Baby Huangfu. This time, he did not bring any followers. He flew directly to Huangfu's main peak with Su Fang. Main peak. At this moment, disciples could be seen flying through the clouds from all directions. They landed in the main peak square. More than 10,000 disciples had gathered in the square. They were all cave immortals. Many of them had even surpassed the cave immortal realm. They were about the same cultivation level as Baby Huangfu. In the great world, those with mediocre talent were almost all spirit immortals within 10,000 years. Those with a certain amount of talent could become cave immortals. Only those with extraordinary talent could become cave immortals within 10,000 years. The cave immortal realm was an insurmountable obstacle. Essence immortals used heaven and earth's spiritual energy in the great world to create an immortal body. Spirit immortals used the foundation of body refinement to connect with heaven and earth. They began to pursue the power of the world. Cave immortals had to embark on the path of true cultivation of the power of the world. It was difficult to overcome the tribulation. Even if one did, it was not easy to form a cave immortal. Furthermore, after entering the cave immortal realm, cultivation would be even more difficult. In this great world, not every cultivator was like the disciples of the constellation of 9 heavens. They were lucky enough to have this ancient dojo, the 9 heavenly stars small phase art, and a dojo that was filled with the power of the world. A cave immortal realm disciple would be superior to most disciples in the great immortal realm. Hence, the 10,000-year competition was a competition of potential in Star Palace. Only those with potential could become the eternal star sun and become a true disciple of Star Palace. So many people. When he landed, Su Fang found himself in a sea of people. There were already tens of thousands of disciples. While sighing, everyone gave in to him. In reality, they were giving way to Baby Huangfu. This fellow had status and strength. Su Fang also attracted a lot of attention as she followed behind. Young Master Bao was the grandson of the Huangfu dojo's elder. Here, he was like a little emperor. Su Fang was also fortunate enough to be treated with courtesy. Baby Huangfu walked to the front of the group. Many disciples took the initiative to talk to him. But some people, Su Fang noticed, ever since he had arrived, he had been paying attention to the tens of thousands of disciples. More than half of the disciples nearby did not notice the Baby Huangfu. Su Fang could guess their identities. They should be disciples with a different surname. Among the tens of thousands of disciples, most of them were disciples with a different surname. Some of them were even powerful. Su Fang noticed that many disciples with a different surname were above the grotto immortal realm. They were all very cold. Among the tens of thousands of disciples, less than 1% of them were above the grotto immortal realm. Among these people, most of them could become eternal star suns without any danger. Huang Fu clan's disciples and disciples with a different surname are obviously estranged. Luckily, most of the disciples in the constellation of 9 heavens are disciples with a different surname. Otherwise, a dojo like Huang Fu clan would be able to control the entire Star Palace. Time continued to pass. Su Fang stood behind baby Huang Fu silently. At around noon, there were about 50,000 disciples gathered in the square. These were all grotto immortals born in the past 10,000 years. Su Fang even saw a familiar face. It was Huang Fu Hao. But he did not see Huang Fu Yunxian. Only then did he know that as the son of Huang Fu Yunhai, Huang Fu Yunxian had cultivated for more than 10,000 years. In the last Aeon competition, he became Eternal Star Sun. Soon, Huang Fu Duan, Huang Fu Yunhai, and the other higher-ups of the dojos, about 100 people appeared. They formed a huge array in front of everyone. 10 doors appeared. Su Fang also saw Huang Fu Xiao among them. She was an expert who had a good relationship with Huang Fu Fei. Most of them were also higher-ups formed by disciples with a different surname. But he did not see the mysterious Huang Fu elder. Huang Fu Fei was also nowhere to be seen. He reckoned that a true disciple like her would not appear in such a competition. The rules are very simple. One of the higher-ups, who was not from the Huang Fu clan, was a middle-aged man. He introduced the array in front of the tens of thousands of disciples. There are 3 tests inside the array. If you can pass these 3 tests, you will pass the test. The first test tests your Qigong and divine abilities. The second test tests your Yang immortals. The third test tests you against puppet. Only by passing the 3 tests will you have the qualifications to compete with the geniuses of the 8 great dojos and show the might of our dojos. The competition will now begin. Everyone, line up and prepare your disciple identity medallions. Yes. The tens of thousands of disciples replied in unison. Their voices shook the mountains. At this time, there were many disciples around the square who were watching the excitement. After all, this was a competition that only happened once every 10,000 years. Brother, you have to do well. I'll be waiting for you at the top of the square. Baby Huang Fu and the 10 people at the front of the line walked towards the 10 doors. Before leaving, they smiled and nodded at Su Fang before swaggering away. Young Master Bao's current cultivation level. After nodding, Su Fang, who was behind the dozens of people, sensed young Master Bao's cultivation level and knew that he would definitely pass the test. Surpassing Cave Immortal Realm. Rumor has it that it's the mysterious Heaven Immortal Realm. Virtual Immortal, Spirit Immortal, and Cave Immortal. Surpassing these 3 realms was the Heaven Immortal Realm that everyone envied. He did not know much about the Heaven Immortal Realm. He began to search for information about this realm. After all, it was not easy for him to reach the Cave Immortal Realm. The Heaven Immortal Realm was still very far away. When the Cave Immortal Realm forms a Heaven's Grotto, one can surpass the Virtual Immortal and Spirit Immortal realms. Through the Heaven's Grotto, one's golden core can directly absorb the power of the world. As for the Heaven Immortal Realm, after entering the Heaven Immortal Realm, the fusion between the immortal and the heavenly cave has reached the extreme. It's like being one with the heavens. Immortals cultivate through the Cave Immortal Realm and familiarize themselves with the heavenly cave. They can then activate their golden core and control their domain. It will be easier for them to absorb the spirit chi of heaven and earth and cultivate the power of the world. They can also begin to cultivate more unfathomable powers through the cultivation of the heavenly cave. Is this the Heaven Immortal Realm? Su Fang did not know until he saw it. Once he understood the Heaven Immortal Realm, he was shocked. Borrowing the power of the heavenly cave. Extracting the essence of heaven and earth. Su Fang knew about this. Back then, when he was cultivating in the small world, the goal of many dojos in cultivation was to allow human cultivators to use their own cultivation, their physical bodies, yang immortal endermic powers to control and borrow the power of nature. Back then, when he became the strongest person in the small world, he thought that he had done it. After becoming an immortal, he realized that the true use of the power of nature was not the mediocre skills of the small world. He slowly came back to his senses and looked at the formation in front of him. The disciples who had entered were not moving at all. The formation was very powerful. Su Fang looked at the heaven immortal realm disciples around him. Each of them had an aura of nothingness, and they were as cold as saints. Borrowing the power of the stars, extracting the essence of heaven and earth. What a powerful heaven immortal realm! No wonder baby Huangfu's current strength is unfathomable. Is this the heaven immortal realm? Fortunately, I can still sense the strength of most of the heaven immortal realm geniuses here. I estimate that in the past 10,000 years, there won't be any disciple who can enter the heaven immortal realm. After all, most of the disciples who have been here for 10,000 years are in the grotto immortal realm. A day passed in the blink of an eye. Almost every disciple needed 6 hours to enter the formation. After a day, only a few disciples could enter the formation. After waiting for 5 days, most of the disciples were very calm. However, there were also many disciples who were anxious and uneasy. Probably everyone had this feeling. It's finally my turn. At noon, Su Fang was first in line. However, not long after, the expert at the entrance of the formation suddenly looked at him sternly. He couldn't wait to reach the formation. At this moment, the formation was like a towering mountain that suddenly pressed down in front of him. Disciple Huangfu Shaoying. I have entered the sect for 200 years and have entered the grotto immortal realm from the virtual immortal realm. He handed the token to the other party. The expert was recording when he suddenly stopped his immortal seal and looked at Su Fang curiously. Your talent is not bad. Work hard. After passing through here, you can become a core disciple and enter the real dojo to cultivate. Thank you, senior apprentice brother. No matter who the other party was, Su Fang felt very comfortable when he heard these words. After bowing, he stepped into the formation. The Xian Guang flickered, and the formation caused Su Fang to enter a different world. A large number of formations intertwined, and immortal light and fog intertwined. When it quieted down, there was a sword formation passage in front of him. The 7 stars sword formation. After arriving at the sword formation passage, he found that he had to pass the first test. For example, the passage was sealed, and the only way to pass was to use the 9 stars minor phase art to form the 7 stars sword formation. Once he reached the level of the sword formation, he would be able to control the sword formation to pass through the passage. What a strange test! After sensing it carefully, he realized that the first test was very important. This sword formation passage tested one's energy arts and divine abilities. If one's energy arts and divine abilities weren't proficient enough, they wouldn't be able to form the sword formation passage. In the blink of an eye, Su Fang used the 9 stars minor phase art. Starlight true energy surged out of his body, and after reaching a certain state, he used the 7 stars sword formation to absorb the true energy of the astral palace and form strands of sword will. An hour later, a ring of sword formation light enveloped Su Fang. Under the protection of the sword formation light, he walked step by step toward the sword formation passage. Chi. As soon as his sword formation light touched the sword formation passage, there was a fierce collision and friction. He tried to control the sword formation light to take a step forward, but he couldn't move the sword formation at all. This sword formation passage is so powerful, Su Fang thought. Frowning, he thought, I'm using the power of a 4 Daos Grotto Immortal, but I still can't move forward. It seems this sword formation passage is at the level of a 6 Daos Grotto Immortal, or perhaps even higher. He had just broken through to the 2 Daos Grotto Immortal level, and his power was extraordinary. But in this test, he had used the power of a 2-Daos Grotto immortal, and had assumed that would be enough. Who could have guessed that he wouldn't be able to move the sword formation? By this point, an hour had passed, and Su Fang was completely focused. I don't have much time left. I need to get stronger. Otherwise, I wonder if this disciple can pass the test. To be able to unleash the power of a 4-Daos Grotto immortal is already a sign of latent talent. It'll be very difficult for him to pass the test, unless he has the potential to be a 2-Daos Grotto immortal. There were streams of will in the area of the test, which were watching Su Fang's every move. Chapter 997. These consciousnesses were obviously the controllers of the array and also the higher-ups of Huang Fu Training Hall. They were responsible for the assessment of every disciple. Su Fang did not sense the situation around him. In fact, he did not need to. He was using the 9 Heaven Stars small phase art. His body was filled with Star Palace's chi and he hid his secrets. He was now an ordinary disciple of Star Palace. Buzz, buzz, buzz! The light circle of the sword array suddenly shone brightly and the sword aura shot out. I will raise the light circle of the sword array to the 7-Dao Cave Immortal Realm. I don't believe that the channel sword array will reach the pinnacle of the Cave Immortal Realm. No wonder the light circle of the sword array suddenly had such an imposing aura. It turned out that Su Fang had raised his strength from the 4-Dao realm to the 7-Dao realm. So powerful. His potential is extraordinary. 2-Dao realm cultivation level, and he has 7-Dao realm strength. This is a disciple with the potential to surpass his level. Let me see this person's information. Senior brothers, I know this junior brother's background. He is a disciple of Missy's training hall. His name is Huang Fu Shaoying. He was originally a disciple with a different surname. Uncle Yunhai gave him this name. Seems like he is a talent nurtured by Missy. He is indeed a talent. A disciple with the potential to surpass his level. Record Huang Fu Shaoying and pay attention to his every move. Okay. The consciousnesses around the immortal array were shocked by Su Fang's 7-Dao realm sword array light circle. It was not a 7-Dao realm sword array but a 7-Dao realm strength from the 2-Dao Cave Immortal Realm. Only those with the potential to surpass their level could do it. It was almost impossible to do it. Hua hua. At that moment, the light circle of the sword array protecting the surroundings had reached the 7-Dao realm. Finally, the sword array in front of the immovable sword array started to shake violently. Su Fang had entered the sword array. After taking the first step, he started to take the second step. Su Fang calmed down. Fortunately, the sword array channel had reached the 7-Dao Cave Immortal Realm. If it had reached the 8-Dao realm or 9-Dao realm, he would have to show his true strength. He persevered step by step. Every step consumed a shocking amount of star chi. Every step was a test. He estimated that he would have to take 100 steps before he could leave the sword array channel. This bit of true chi was nothing to him, but he still had to act like it was not easy. Otherwise, he would become a monster. Finally, he smoothly stepped out of the passageway sword array. All of a sudden, the pressure disappeared. But before he could take a breather, the array formation in front of him suddenly changed. A door forged from black gemstones suddenly appeared in front of him. What a powerful Yuan spirit aura! With just a thought, Su Fang could sense how powerful this black stone door was. It contained an astonishing amount of primordial spirit power. This was the second test, the Yang Immortal test. Haha, the first trial was difficult for me, but the second trial is the hardest for the other disciples. But for me, it's actually quite easy. Since it was a test for Yang Immortals, Su Fang released his primordial spirit. He opened his eyes and almost used the Yin-Yang Rakshasa sword. If it was the Yin-Yang Rakshasa sword, it would probably be able to shatter this black stone door in one move. The space in front of him turned into nothingness, and waves of dark golden twisted divine might surged out. Moreover, with a whoosh, a young immortal flew out from between his brows. The primordial spirit left his body. It was Su Fang's young immortal. It looked exactly the same as Su Fang, more than a foot tall. It sat cross-legged and controlled the twisted golden divine might. The young immortal arrived in front of the black stone door. He opened his hands and began to grab the black stone door. After grabbing for a while, the black stone door did not move. Su Fang smiled coldly. The young immortal in front of him immediately raised his arms and grabbed. Unexpectedly, the black stone door began to shake. In less than half an incense stick's time, the black stone door creaked and rose. My young immortal's strength has surpassed the cave immortal realm and is comparable to a heaven immortal. This is nothing. There was a familiar domineering smile in his eyes. After a few breaths, the black stone door rose. Su Fang sucked the young immortal into between his brows and disappeared. The second trial was passed just like that. In the third trial, as the array formation changed, 3 wooden puppets made of wood appeared. In the huge immortal array, the 3 puppets stood side by side. Their eyes were round immortal stones. The 3 wooden puppets were also black. Some gems were embedded in their bodies, and there was a talisman on each puppet's neck. It was very obvious. Needless to say, in order to pass the third trial, one had to defeat the puppet. The key was to make the puppets lose their ability to move. Tear them off. Or general talismans. Shatter them. There are rules in the third trial. Unexpectedly, 2 extraordinary disciples appeared. They were around 27 or 28 years old. Naturally, they were not cave immortals. They should be very powerful high-level heaven immortals. Su Fang cupped his fists and bowed. One of them said, "Once the puppets are activated, you will either be beaten down or the puppets will be beaten down. In order to pass this trial, you don't have to rely on strength. You can also rely on your ability. See the 3 talismans on the puppets' necks? See?" The other person continued, "Those are the energy talismans of the puppets. They are the source of the puppets' energy. If you shatter them or remove the talismans, the puppets will return to normal. However, removing the talismans is not easy. What about the 3 talismans? Their strength is at the cave immortal realm. Remember, you only have 2 hours. If you can't pass in 2 hours, it means you have failed." The 2 of them mysteriously appeared, and then mysteriously disappeared into thin air. 9 Dao Realm. Unexpectedly, in the end, they still couldn't avoid this problem in the 3 trials. The 3 trials were so strict. The first trial not only required one to reach the 7 Dao Realm, but also had high requirements for cultivation techniques and divine abilities. The second trial, the Black Stone Door, most disciples probably couldn't move it. Now, the third trial almost required one to reach the cave immortal realm. It was said that any cave immortal disciple could sign up. Now, how many cave immortal disciples could pass? Only those who had reached the 7 Dao Realm, 8 Dao Realm, or 9 Dao Realm had some confidence. It was difficult for other low-level cave immortals to do so. It felt like this 10,000-year competition was tailor-made for heaven immortal disciples. Chi. Suddenly, Su Fang took a step forward. Starry aura burst out from his body. His hands were like eagle claws, and his eyes were as sharp as a black eagle. He stared at the talismans on the 3 puppets' neck. He had to remove them. Squeak. The 3 puppets waited for Su Fang to move. They suddenly moved. At first, they seemed to be clumsy. However, in the next second, they nimbly formed seals and used the Meteor Kill Sword. Meteor Kill Sword. These puppets were too powerful. They were clearly alive. They were 3 experts who had the strength of a cave immortal. Su Fang also used the Meteor Kill Sword. However, his speed was still slower than the 3 puppets. Chi. Chi. Both sides unleashed their Meteor Overkill swords, and their sword chis clashed against each other, either rubbing against each other or colliding against each other. At the same time, Su Fang was forced to retreat. At this moment, Su Fong clearly felt the gap between him and the three puppets. It was not just a small gap. When the 3 cave immortals and 9 Tao realm puppets worked together, any cave immortal disciple would find it difficult to fight against them. If it was a heaven immortal disciple, it would naturally be easier. After just one round of fighting, Su Fong had an idea. Fighting them head-on is not the best plan. I have to use the sword formation. Their weakness is that they do not have the ability to think. As long as I use my speed and some array formations, I will be able to deal with them one by one. If I use my true strength now, I can defeat the 3 puppets with my strength. However, this is just a test. There is no need to waste my true chi. Sword formation. The 3 puppets closed in on chi. After pondering for a short while, he unleashed the 7 stars killing sword formation. Then, the sword chi combined and transformed into a huge net of sword formation light. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The 3 puppets didn't have brains, so naturally they attacked head-on. Chi, 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 chi. While the 3 sword formation nets were dealing with the puppets, he immediately pushed his speed to the extreme. He came to the side and saw that a puppet was entangled by the sword formation. Then, he threw out more sword formation nets, 3 inner and 3 outer layers to deal with the puppet. In any case, he had a lot of true chi, so he was not afraid of exhausting it. Moreover, at this stage, if he could use true chi, he could use the sword formation to deal with the puppets. Chi, 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 chi. As he retreated, he sensed a shocking amount of true energy within the rune talisman. He laughed coldly. This was the rune talisman? Chi, chi, chi. Next, Su Fong used the same method again and again to form a large number of sword formations. Again and again, he expended a significant amount of true energy in order to suppress the puppet's reaction and seize the opportunity to seize the 2nd and 3rd talismans. You've succeeded. Congratulations. Chi, chi. Chi, 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 chi. It was baby Huang Fu. Besides him, there were more than 20 disciples waiting outside the hall. Almost all of them were at the heavenly immortal realm, and only a few were at the cave immortal realm. He was even more excited than if he had passed the test himself. I knew you could do it. You've been here the whole time. Haha. You didn't let me down. I was lucky. Su Fong scratched his head, looking surprised. What luck do you have? Do you think I don't know your methods? Moreover, Big Sister told me every bit of your experience in the heavenly treasure mysterious realm. You turned out to be a realm surpasser. You are definitely the first person to pass the immortal cave realm and cave realms assessment. Chi, 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 chi. During this period, Su Fong saw very few people pass the formation. Most of them appeared on both sides of the formation with their tails between their legs. They had failed. As for the successful disciples, Su Fong only paid attention to the chi. Chi, 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 chi. Young master. After a few days, the selection was coming to an end. At this moment, Huang Fu. Chi, 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 chi. He said to Su Fong, Huang Fu, Xiaoying, the higher-ups of the training hall have seen your performance. They are here on behalf of the higher-ups. They have something to ask you. What's the matter? Baby Huang Fu was very worried. Young master, don't worry. You can come with us. The higher-ups were very polite to baby Huang Fu. Then, they led the 2 of them into the hall. Chapter 998. Stepping into the main hall, there were only a few people inside. These people were not simple. Each and every one of them was a high-ranking official. The only one that Su Fong recognized was Huang Fu Duan. It was truly a small world. Of course, when he met Huang Fu-duan in the past, Su Fang could only look at him from afar and raise his head to look at him. This was the first time they met in the main hall of this training ground. Huang Fu-duan also acted as if he did not recognize Su Fang. He seemed very ordinary among the high-ranking officials. However, his status as a high-ranking official of Huang Fu made him respected even in the corners. Fortunately, he did not see Huang Fu Yunhai. Among these people, there was clearly one person with the highest status. It was an old man wearing a starry robe. He looked to be in his 60s. The collar, sleeves, and edges of his robe were all cloud white. It was completely different from the robes of ordinary disciples. This was an existence whose status surpassed Huang Fu-duan and Huang Fu Yunhai. Huang Fu Xiao came to the front of the crowd and introduced Su Fang one by one. Every person here was a big shot. They could make many disciples tremble in fear with just a stomp of their feet. As for the old man, he was Huang Fu's vice elder. In the constellation of 9 heavens, he was also a junior elder. His status was only below the Huang Fu elders. Not to mention in the main peak of Huang Fu, he was also a supreme existence in the other 8 training grounds. The junior elder's name was Qiu Ranjing. People called him Elder Qiu. He was not a Huang Fu expert, but an expert with a different surname. Of course, in front of ordinary disciples like Su Fang, the main peak of Huang Fu was naturally respected by the Huang Fu clan. However, it could be seen that in the huge constellation of 9 heavens, the disciples of the Huang Fu clan were just a drop in the ocean. Most of them were disciples with different surnames. Therefore, junior elder Qiu Ranjing was also respected by the higher-ups of the Huang Fu clan. Huang Fu Xiaoying is a good seedling. After taking a glance at Su Fang, young elder Qiu Ranjing stroked his beard and praised him vigorously in front of everyone. To be able to pass the internal test as a Tao Cave Immortal and participate in the 10,000-year competition, I can guarantee that he's not only the best in our Taoist sect, but also the best in the 9 Taoist sections. There won't be a second disciple who participates in the competition as a Tao Cave Immortal. Yes. Everyone nodded in agreement. At this moment, although Su Fang's head was lowered, he could sense that there was only one person whose expression was not good when he released his great perfection ability. Naturally, it was Huang Fu. He could clearly see the expressions of the higher-ups around him, and even the slightest change in their expressions. As for Qiu Ranjing, this little elder, Su Fang only had 3 words to describe him: unfathomable. Not to mention Qiu Ranjing, apart from baby Huang Fu, Su Fang could not see through the rest of the people here. However, they were far inferior to young elder Qiu Ranjing, especially when it came to the power of the world. Under the great perfection ability, Su Fang could not sense everyone's cultivation level. He could only sense the strength of the power of the world. After all, at their level, it was a competition of control over the power of the world. Qiu Ranjing was especially ethereal. He was not connected to the array formations and auras of the surrounding halls. However, the auras of the others, such as Huang Fu-duan, were clearly fused with the auras of the surrounding halls. This meant that Qiu Ranjing's cultivation level was higher than that of the higher-ups here. Xiaoying, I have high hopes for you. Furthermore, you have received Little Fei's recommendation. I believe that you will be able to achieve something in the competition this time. After everyone conversed for a while, Qiu Ranjing spoke again. He looked at Su Fang like an old man next door. The competition will be held soon. As a disciple, you have to show off for the Taoist sect. However, the Taoist sect does not wish for its disciples to be injured. Do your best. Su Fang immediately bowed. Thank you, Elder Qiu. I will remember. You have vitality and spirit. The future will depend on you disciples. The new generation will replace the old. In front of everyone, Qiu Ranjing praised Su Fang several times. After a while, they left the hall. Only Huang Fu Xiao accompanied the 2 of them out of the hall. They came to the corridor. On one side was the main entrance of the hall. There were more than 1,000 disciples who had passed the assessment. All of them were geniuses. Huangfu Xiao seemed to be talking to herself. Every 10,000 years, the internal assessment is also the time for the higher-ups of the Taoist sect to carefully examine the potential of each disciple. Baby Huangfu asked curiously, "Senior brother, does that mean that Elder Chiu asked my brother to come here because he wants him to be a disciple in the assessment?" The competition every 10,000 years is not only an opportunity for the sects to select geniuses. It is also the best time for the 9 great Taoist sects to select disciples with potential. Even those who did not pass the assessment but have potential will be secretly received by the higher-ups. In the future, they will be treated differently from other disciples. Huangfu Xiaoying, there is still some time left. You should focus on your cultivation. The competition every 10,000 years is very cruel. Every disciple and every opponent wants to step on your corpse to succeed and become the eternal star sun. Because if you become the eternal star sun, you will be able to go to those mysterious Taoist sects to cultivate and become a core disciple. I will work hard. Go back and wait. Huangfu Xiao sent the 2 of them out of the crowd and went to the plaza alone. At this time, Su Fang and baby Huangfu would occasionally see the higher-ups bringing out disciples for questioning. Those disciples were all people with potential. Brother, look at those people in the middle of those disciples. The waiting process was very boring. Baby Huangfu suddenly patted Su Fang's arm and pointed at the hundreds of people who passed the assessment. Su Fang looked at the hundreds of disciples in the middle. Every one of them was releasing a domineering aura and was a cut above the rest. Most of them were good-looking and were all in the heavenly immortal realm. These are the peerless geniuses born in our Taoist sect in the past 10,000 years. Some of them are very extraordinary. Most of them are disciples with different surnames. For example, that one. Which one? His hair is tied up. He looks a little like that guy in the Taoist bun. I see him. His aura and vital qi are so domineering. Everyone around him is keeping a distance from him. He is an expert. This person is Di Qingyue. He entered the heavenly immortal realm after cultivating for more than 6,000 years. He has long been valued by the higher-ups of the Taoist sect. Even Big Sis has some impression of him. This time, Di Qingyue is the first person to become one of the 10 strongest eternal star suns in our Taoist sect. Di Qingyue. What a powerful person. Brother Bao, are you a match for him? After hearing baby Huangfu's introduction and hearing his hostility towards the disciple called Di Qingyue, he obviously saw him as an opponent. Baby Huangfu waved his hand. Whether I am a match for him or not, we will only know after we fight in the competition. However, this person broke through the cave immortal realm before me and entered the heavenly immortal realm. Golden Core Heavenly Grotto Realm cultivators have cultivated a lot of world power. I am not very confident. I believe in Brother Bao. Besides Di Qingyue, you have to remember some of the strongest disciples in Huangfu Taoist sect in the past 10,000 years. For example, Wang Dong, Zhao Huatian, Yin Rongrong, and Lu Yuanxiu. Baby Huangfu introduced Su Fang to more than 10 disciples with extraordinary auras and 2 women in one breath. These disciples were all potential heavenly immortals and had long been designated as the eternal star suns. In Huangfu Taoist sect, they had always enjoyed the cultivation resources that only the eternal star suns had. In the huge constellation of 9 heavens, there were many disciples. It had existed for so many years, had abundant resources, and had a strong Tao foundation. Naturally, there would be some outstanding talents among the countless disciples. Su Fang could clearly sense the extraordinary aura, world power, and primordial spirits of the disciples that baby Huangfu mentioned. He thought about how many fortuitous encounters he had and how he was an ascendant. That was why he had such extraordinary abilities. However, in front of these disciples, he also lost some of his brilliance. Compared to them, he was just a country bumpkin who had just entered the city. The internal test only ended after 10 days. A total of more than 3,000 disciples passed the test and represented Huang Fu Taoist sect in the 10,000-year competition. As for those who did not pass the selection, in fact, they would also have fortuitous encounters in their future cultivation. Some of them would cultivate hard and become genius disciples. Even if they could not become the eternal star sons, they would still have their own cultivation paths, luck, and ability. Their talents would always shine in the constellation of 9 heavens. More than 3,000 disciples gathered in the square. The higher-ups announced that the official competition would be held 3 years later. Next, they would give each disciple a reward in public. Returning to the side peak with baby Huangfu, he thought that this guy was going to go out and have fun again. Unexpectedly, he was going to cultivate in seclusion. As expected, baby Huangfu had changed. When they returned to the main hall, Red Kite brought a tray. "Young master, you're back. Congratulations on passing the test. This is the morning spiritual water I collected. Use it to brew spiritual tea. It can relieve fatigue, concentrate, and clear the mind." Su Fang wanted Red Kite to leave so that he could continue cultivating. However, his heart warmed when he heard this. "Thank you for your hard work. The plan of the day is in the morning. The morning is also the time when the spiritual energy of heaven and earth is the most abundant. Instead of cultivating, you collected spiritual water for me. I'm not like young master. I'll never be an official disciple. I'll be a slave for my entire life. If I meet a good master, then my life will be better. If I meet a good master, then my life will be better. If I meet a good master, then my life will be better. If I meet a good master." Red Kite handed Su Fang a cup of tea. He took a sip. It was really not bad. A refreshing fragrance flowed into his body. Moreover, it brought a sense of comfort. It really had the ability to strengthen the muscles and activate the meridians. Red Kite, everyone's fate can be changed by themselves. Probably because he thought of Red Kite's experiences and resonated with her, Su Fang's expression suddenly froze. Back then, when I entered the constellation of 9 heavens, I was also a temporary disciple. To put it bluntly, I was a servant who worked for an official disciple. But now I've become an official disciple. If you have the heart to cultivate, I'll teach you cultivation techniques. If you don't, I'll guarantee that you'll stay in my palace forever. My young master can help me cultivate." Red Kite's big eyes trembled when she heard this. Her watery eyes looked as though they were about to turn into pearls and fall into her eyes. "The choice is yours. If you want to cultivate, I'll give you all the resources. If you don't want to cultivate, I'll do my best to protect you. You can live your life peacefully in Star Palace. I've experienced what you've gone through. Hence, I understand your situation." Red Kite suddenly felt ashamed. "Of course I want to cultivate. I originally came to join Star Palace. It's just that I didn't pass the test." Su Fang put down the teacup and let Red Kite fill it up again. "That's good. From now on you can come in once every month. I've already become a cave immortal. I can cleanse your marrow, give you resources and teach you the 9 heavenly stars' small phase art. Go. Then I'll see you in a month." "Wait. What's wrong?" "Thank you for the tea. This is the only time. From now on, focus on cultivating. I believe you can change your fate through your own efforts." "Yes." Red Kite took the tray and left the hall. "Helping others is also helping myself." After the door closed, Su Fang released a sealing formation and sealed it completely. Then, he left behind young immortals to guard the surroundings while his original body entered the void dust cauldron. There are still 3 years left. I'll focus on cultivating the Azura Blood Sea. After the 10,000 years competition, regardless of the result, I'll make a trip to Huangze Star Realm as soon as possible. My previous goal was to become a cave immortal. In front of Huang Fu Fei, this is enough to prove my aptitude. As for the eternal star sun, I'll try my best. I don't want to show my true strength to everyone. After pondering for a while, after a series of cracking sounds, his body turned from a human body into a pool of blood, and it quickly turned into a human face. He began to control the pool of blood. At the same time, he used the crucible transformation technique to refine resources and turn them into spiritual water for the pool of blood to devour. On the other side, the 14 slaves also began to refine the yin-yang immortal sky pellet. Chapter 999. The yin-yang immortal sky pills refined by the puppets were mostly consumed by the junior commanders. Currently, the strongest demon immortal was Lu Xiong, who also coveted the yin-yang immortal sky pills. The power of yin and yang was the power of creation. As long as there was life, it could be absorbed. Not to mention life, even some substances could absorb this power. Under the yellow spring blood sea, I can only feel the existence of heavenly caves, world fragments, divine apertures, and yang immortals. I didn't expect cultivation to be so difficult. How many years has it been? I still haven't truly cultivated the Yama blood sea. In his current state, he could only sense the existence of world fragments. As for his physical body, it was difficult to sense anything else. This meant that there was still a long way to go before reaching the yellow spring blood sea. When it was almost a month, he controlled the blood to transform into his physical state and left the void dust cauldron. Now, it didn't take long for the blood to transform into a human body. It only took about 3 days. If it was in the past, it would take at least a month. This meant that this period of cultivation was very helpful to him. Young master. He appeared in the main hall and absorbed for a while. After recovering, he opened the door. Servant Red Kite walked in small steps, not daring to make any noise. She came to Su Fong and half knelt. Su Fong didn't go to the throne. He stood beside the void dust cauldron and asked Red Kite to stand up. You are now a spirit immortal. As long as you work hard, you will break through to the cave immortal realm. When you cultivate the 9 heavenly stars small phase art to a certain level, I will find a way to make you an official disciple. Of course, it would be best if you step into the cave immortal realm. Red Kite said, Thank you, young master. I will work hard. Young master's cauldron is very powerful. What kind of treasure is it? I have never seen a treasure cauldron before. This is the cauldron transformation. It is very rare to see it now. I only got it when I went to the desolate lake astral world. Young master is so powerful. The desolate lake astral world. I have some strength in the future. I hope to accompany young master to the desolate lake astral world to train. If you really rely on hard work to cultivate, I will take you there. Okay, sit beside the cauldron transformation first. This time, I will teach you the 9 heavenly stars small phase arts introductory mental cultivation method. Let's see how long you can cultivate it. Once you have mastered it, you can cultivate the official mental cultivation method. Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, the Red Kite immediately went to the crucible transformation realm and sat down cross-legged. Su Fong formed a seal with his hands, and a seed of starlight was instantly formed. Young master, this is an energy seed, and it is formed by the essence of the Star Palace's true chi. Young master wants to implant it into my body to help me cultivate the 9 heavenly stars small phase art faster. Young master is so kind to me, how can I accept it and repay it? You also know about the energy seed and how to use it? Although I'm just a servant, I've browsed through many ancient books in the outside world and met many cultivators. I just happen to know this point. Energy seeds are secrets that are not passed on to others. Normally, it's a secret technique that the elders give to the juniors. Once it enters a cultivator's body, it's like using water to bloom and ice to bloom. The power of the seed will perfectly fuse with the body, making it 10,000 times easier to cultivate and condense divine abilities. I'm sorry. I didn't expect a woman like you to know so much about these things. I want to thank my Lord. My Lord, you have given me a new lease of life. Red Kite lived alone in the great immortal world, experiencing the coldness and warmth of the human world, seeing the laws of the world. When Su Fong condensed the true chi seed, Red Kite stared at Su Fong in a daze. There was only him in her eyes. Her eyes were emitting a faint and deep luster, and her cheeks were slightly flushed. Don't be distracted. Su Fong's perception was amazing. Naturally, he knew the changes in her expression. With a stern shout, he flashed behind the Red Kite with a swift and fierce palm and slapped into its back. With a buzzing sound, a large amount of starlight gushed out from Red Kite's body. Then, it gushed out from her eyes, nostrils, mouth, and even ears. Alright, the seed contains various kinds of power, and there's also an introductory mental cultivation method. I'll condense an array formation for you. You can cultivate at the side of my main hall. If you succeed, release the Yang Immortal to activate the array formation around the Crucible Transformation Realm. In a very short time, when Red Kite was still surrounded by the starlight and seemed to be unable to control it, Su Fong condensed a barrier in the corner. He grabbed at the void and sucked Red Kite into it. After observing for a while, Su Fong drilled into the Crucible Transformation Realm. As soon as he entered, Red Kite, who was sitting cross-legged in the corner, suddenly looked at the Crucible Transformation Realm with a cold gaze. The constellation of 9 heavens is an absolute power among the countless immortal worlds. The 9 heavens star's small phase art is also a supreme cultivation method. I have to keep it well and cultivate it well. It can make me stronger. Huang Fu Shaoying, you're spinning a cocoon around yourself by doing this to me. Inside the Crucible Transformation Realm. In an extremely short period of time, Su Fong was reduced to a pool of blood through a series of shattering. In this state, he could still sense the world fragments, heavenly cave, divine aperture, and Yang Immortal. He could only control it a little. Su Fong thought for a while. This kind of cultivation could only make a little progress. He had to think of a way. After groping for a while, he found the problem from himself. In the end, he thought that he could only find a breakthrough from the Blood Transformation True Body and the Black Lotus True Body. Especially the Blood Transformation True Body, which was a kind of demonic state of the demonic path. However, Su Fong had a perfect physical body, so he miraculously cultivated a true body. When the Blood Transformation True Body was used, the body was in a state of burning, stimulating the potential and exploding the life force. He was not afraid of any pain. At this time, the face in the pool of blood showed some pain. Then, some small bubbles suddenly appeared in the surrounding blood. There was a faint demonic chi burning in the bubbles. This was because he was in the state of blood, activating the Blood Transformation True Body. Therefore, when the blood changed, the demonic chi in the blood bubbles appeared. It's completely different from activating the Blood Transformation True Body with the physical body. The physical body can enter the blood transformation state in an instant. But now, only a part of the blood has the blood transformation divine power. I thought that the Blood Transformation True Body would make the Yellow Spring Blood Sea's cultivation undergo a great transformation, but I didn't expect that after activating it, the movement is so insignificant. If activating the Blood Transformation True Body once is not enough, then I'll activate it twice or thrice. Moreover, in the future, I'll have to activate the Black Lotus True Body so that the blood will have those magical blood threads. This way, with the blood threads, I can circulate my true chi, divine abilities, magic power, and Yang Immortal, allowing the blood to completely transform into a physical body. After so many years of cultivation, the Yellow Spring Blood Sea was really difficult to cultivate. It reminded him of the difficulty of cultivating the 9 yang 9 transformations in the past and condensing the yang meridian. He didn't expect the yellow spring blood sea to put in so much effort. At this time, the blood maintained the state of demonic chi bubbles. Only a small area was formed, and after activating the blood transformation true body, Su Fang was exhausted. He had no choice but to stop and let the crucible transformation realm refine a lot of spiritual liquid. Through watering, he absorbed it in the state of blood. After fusing with the spiritual liquid, Su Fang's mental strength and vitality were restored. He began to activate the blood transformation true body again. The current yellow spring blood sea was like a newborn baby in front of Su Fang. He was responsible for letting the baby grow up bit by bit and learn to walk. After about half a year, he didn't expect Red Kite's primordial spirit to activate the crucible transformation realm. After Su Fang condensed a human body, he was pleasantly surprised to find that Red Kite had used the energy seed as the source and perfectly mastered the Star Palace's entry-level mental cultivation technique. Its speed was amazing, and its aura carried a certain amount of the world's power. This was almost impossible for a spirit immortal. He didn't expect Red Kite to have such potential. Fortunately, official disciples had the qualifications and authority to teach cultivation techniques to their servants. He taught the first level of the entry-level cultivation technique to Red Kite. Since then, Red Kite, as a servant, began to officially embark on the path of cultivation in the cultivation world, just like the disciples of the Star Palace. Su Fangda focused part of his attention on the crucible transformation void. He used the blood transformation true body and the black lotus true body to control the yellow spring blood sea. Other times, he paid attention to the slaves refining pills and cultivating the 9 yang 9 transformations and the ethereal truth. Since the ethereal truth surpassed the 9 heavenly stars' small phase art, Su Fang didn't need to spend time cultivating the small phase art. He strived to have the ability to transform reality and illusion as soon as possible. Fortunately, after this period of cultivation, his control of the yellow spring blood sea had changed greatly. After leaving the crucible transformation realm, he saw Red Kite in the starlight. A large amount of world's aura poured into her aura through the 9 heavenly stars' small phase art. It entered her body and settled the world's power in her body. After putting away the crucible transformation realm, Su Fang disappeared in the blink of an eye. The scene changed and he appeared outside the baby Huangfu Palace. It turned out that the 10,000-year competition was about to begin. He had to prepare well with the baby Huangfu. A few days later, at the main peak of Huangfu, thousands of disciples who passed the internal test flew to the depths of the dojo among the clouds in the mountains under the envy of many disciples. Huangfu Yunhai, Huangfu Duan, Huangfu Xiaoxiao and the others flew at the front. They didn't see the young elder Qiu Ranjing. Every disciple was nervous. There were also some disciples who were looking forward to it. They were full of confidence. For example, the exceptional genius Di Qingyue only saw calmness in him. The other geniuses were also full of energy. After passing through the familiar drifting cloud lake, they came to the depths of the dojo. On the right there was a world of fog. It was said that it was the Bodhi spiritual world. Not all of the 9 dojos in the Star Palace were like the Huangfu Dojo, where the dojo was controlled by a family. Therefore, there was no difference between family and disciples with different surnames. Soon, a lonely mountain peak attracted everyone's attention. That was the location of the 10,000-year competition. There were many disciples who were flying into the mountain peak. Stepping into the mountain peak, there was a fairy formation and square on the top of the mountain, which was called the Eternal Star Peak. It was divided into 9 regions. Under the leadership of the higher-ups, tens of thousands of disciples came to one of the camps in the square. The other camps had disciples from different dojos. It was Su Fang's first time seeing the extraordinary disciples from the 8 dojos in such an occasion. The 9 dojos in the Star Palace were Huangfu Peak, Proud Sky Peak, Sleeping Celestial Valley, Heavenly Cloud Cave, Bodhi Spiritual World, Ruoshui Spiritual Land, Star Origin World, Celestial Defying Pavilion, and Xinghua Spiritual Sky. The 9 great Tao grounds naturally had their own differences in strength. For example, the Bodhi Spirit World and the Ruoshui Spirit Land were extremely powerful existences. The Star Origin World, the Celestial Defying Pavilion, and the Star Splendor Spirit Sky were all very mysterious. Only ordinary disciples would appear frequently. On the Eternal Star Peak, the disciples from the 9 dojos were all exceptional geniuses. They were the most talented geniuses in the past 10,000 years. After everyone sat down quietly, they saw the disciples from the other dojos continuously gathering. There was a distance of 1 mile between each dojo. In the middle was the fairy formation. Higher up in the middle was where the higher-ups gathered. The higher-ups had yet to appear. Currently, only the disciples from the 9 dojos were gathering. Gradually, more disciples from the 9 dojos started to appear. Although they couldn't participate in the 10,000-year competition, they still wanted to feast their eyes. After waiting for a long time, it was about to start. Su Fang looked at the other dojos from time to time. At that moment, baby Huangfu came close and smiled. "Don't be anxious. If you're anxious, we're anxious too. Hee, since we're here, what's there to be afraid of? Brother Bao, since you're so confident, it seems like you're going to fight to become one of the 10 eternal star sons." Su Fang smiled and asked. Chapter 1000. How can I be confident? Baby Huangfu suddenly stopped laughing. He lowered his voice and said, "I heard that the rules of the competition this time are different from the past. The sect is going to test the disciples." Su Fang was stunned. "It doesn't matter if it's different. I don't have much confidence in the competition. If I can pass one round, then another. If I can defeat one person, then so be it. The higher-ups will tell us later." "Oh right, you are my brother. Why are you so unambitious?" My brother, no matter what, you have to get an eternal star son. I'm not joking. Look at my elder sister. She is so picky. She would never let ordinary people enter the heavenly treasure mystic realm. But it's different for you." "What's the difference? How many years did she let you cultivate in there?" "Brother Bao, it's not because she let me. I relied on myself to pass through the rounds. If I couldn't even win the first round, I would have been chased out. But she is indeed very kind to me. With such an opportunity, I was able to break through to the cave immortal realm. Brother Bao, don't worry. I will repay her in the future." "Haha, and you say you are not interested in my elder sister." Baby Huangfu heard Su Fang's words and suddenly pressed down hard on his arm. Su Fang shuddered. "Huangfu Fei. Forget it. She is strong and unpredictable. How can it be?" Su Fang trembled and said, I don't have such thoughts. She is the star in the sky, and I am just a pile of mud on the ground. Hee, you are my brother. Of course, we should not let others take advantage of you. My elder sister is the #1 beauty. She is also very strong. Sai, what's wrong? I see that you are not competitive at all. Even if I am willing, you will not be valued by my elder sister. You are so boring. Everyone, listen up. As the two were chatting, the higher-ups in front suddenly spoke. It was Huangfu Duan. As soon as he spoke, more than 3,000 disciples quieted down and stood up. More than 100 high-level officials came to the front, and Huangfu once again sternly shouted, "I just received news from the high-level officials. This time, the rules of the competition will be different from the previous ones. This time, it will be crueler and more dangerous. The Star Origin Array is a Yuan Spirit Array. The rules of the elimination round are very simple. Tens of thousands of disciples will have their true bodies outside the array and then release their Yang Immortals into the Star Origin Array to fight with other disciples' Yang Immortals. Every young immortal defeated will accumulate 1 point. Then, to win the competition, you must accumulate 5 points. Of course, the higher the accumulated points, the more you can directly become the Eternal Star Child. Wow! When the higher-ups finished speaking, the thousands of disciples were all shocked. The elimination round was actually like this, bringing the most direct and cruel competition to the disciples. Baby Huangfu suddenly raised his voice and asked, "Releasing young immortals for the competition? What if the young immortals are accidentally destroyed inside the array? Won't they be in danger?" A high-level official said, "Young master, don't worry. The Star Origin Array is a Yuan Spirit Array. When every young immortal enters it, they will be protected by the array's shackles. When they fail, they will release their power and be protected. They won't be killed or suffer any accident." "I see," many disciples exclaimed at the same time. It seemed that not only baby Huangfu thought of this problem, but the other disciples also thought of this. What if the young immortals were killed? Huangfu Duan Hai added, "You probably don't know much about the Star Origin Array. In fact, many large factions have similar arrays to test disciples, test them, or hold competitions. There are also similar arrays in some ruins. This is the first time our sect has used this kind of array outside the sect. Although the young immortals won't be in danger of being destroyed, it will still consume energy. Everyone, cultivate well. The higher-ups are fusing the Star Origin Array." After saying that, the higher-ups went to the side. The remaining thousands of disciples left and began to talk non-stop. "The Star Origin Array is so cruel. Is this a first-rate faction in the great world? The internal test was already very difficult. Now, the Star Origin Array is the law of survival. Moreover, a disciple has to defeat 5 young immortals and accumulate 5 points to pass. For most people, this is extremely cruel, but for me, I happen to have the advantage of being a young immortal. I didn't expect luck to be on my side. In this case, I can directly accumulate a lot of points and become the Eternal Star Sun. I don't need to participate in the arena competition. I have to make good use of my advantage. My weakness is my realm. If I compete in the arena with the strength of a cave immortal, I can defeat a cave immortal disciple. But if I want to defeat a heaven immortal disciple, I have to use all my strength. Now that I have a chance to become the Eternal Star Sun, I have to take this shortcut." Soon, Su Feng had an idea in his mind. Learning from others' strengths to make up for his weaknesses was a method he was very good at. Baby Huangfu and all the other geniuses couldn't sit still. Other than the competition, they were also competing in the arena, so they were prepared for it. In the end, it turned out to be an elimination round where young immortals would fight each other. This was too sudden and cruel. At noon, finally, above the array formation in front of them, there were thousands of high-level officials gathered in the high-level area. They were all dazzling existences. With ordinary vision, one could only vaguely see their faces. Even Su Feng could only see them after using his perfected state ability. He also saw a familiar face. It was Huangfu Dojo's little elder Qiu Ranjing, and some of the high-level officials of Huangfu Dojo. The rest were unfamiliar. Those high-level officials didn't say anything. They came and sat down one by one. Then, the high-level officials of the 9 major dojos began to move. Su Feng followed baby Huangfu and the other disciples to leave their seats one by one and came to the front. The high-level officials were already waiting. The elimination round is about to begin. What you need to prepare is to sit cross-legged around the array formation and focus on releasing your young immortals. You need to maintain your young immortals at their strongest state. When you enter the Star Origin Array, each of your young immortals will be supported by the array formation's divine power and will be protected. Don't worry about accidents. Next, use your young immortals to defeat your opponents. Defeat 5 people and you will accumulate 5 points. We're from the same dojo, so we'll meet there. I hope that you won't have to kill each other. Go fight the disciples of the other 8 dojos. We can't kill each other. Also, if you accumulate 10 points, you can directly become the Eternal Star Child and won't have to participate in the arena battles. If someone can accumulate 10 points, then when you use the hand seals in the divine power, the high-level officials will release a divine power and take your young immortal away from the star origin array. That's all you need to remember. When you enter the star origin array, you need to be calm, think carefully, and look for opponents weaker than you. Don't act rashly. There are about 50,000 disciples from the 9 major dojos participating in the 10,000-year competition. You still have a lot of chances. Remember, don't kill each other. Yes. As the high-level officials released their divine power, more than 3,000 disciples responded in unison. Then, under the guidance of the higher-ups, the disciples approached the incomparably huge star origin array one by one and sat down cross-legged in midair, about 10 feet away from the array. Baby Huangfu and Su Fang sat together. There were many celestial immortals around them. He was just a dual Dao cave immortal, so he really didn't count for much. At this moment, before the elimination round began, in the high-level area, every high-level official here had a shocking status, and there were even some young people among them. Qi Yanzi, who Su Fang had seen several times before, was also among them. Brother Qi, you look injured. What happened? More than 100 young people were gathered together. They all came from different dojos, so their star robes were somewhat different. A young expert suddenly asked Qi Yanzi curiously. Qi Yanzi replied, I went to the desolate pond astral plane to see the birth of an ancient treasure and was accidentally poisoned. I'm still recovering. So Brother Qi also went. A few experts came over. I went too. When I went, there were almost no treasures being shot out. I heard that a few experts obtained treasures. I heard about those people too. There was a monk called Shangde by Tsubing and some others. About a dozen of them obtained treasures. I heard that many years ago, the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor's treasure, the Yellow Spring Great Emperor's vase, which was once established in the Yellow Spring Immortal World, also appeared. Monk Shangde obtained the Yellow Spring Great Emperor's vase. Why does it sound like that person is not a Buddhist cultivator, but a demonic cultivator? However, the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor is really incredible. There are many records about him in the ancient books. I just received some news that the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor's dojo might be in the desolate pond astral plane. Moreover, some ancient treasures will appear. I even heard that our sect is very interested in the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor's dojo. Of course. The Yellow Spring Devil Emperor once established the Yellow Spring Immortal World. Overall, the Yellow Spring Immortal World was much stronger than our Star Palace. I heard that in recent years, the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor's treasures have appeared in many places. It is also said that many places have his dojos. I wonder if it is true this time. No matter if it is true or not, our sect will be interested in it. Moreover, many experts in our sect will rush to the desolate pond astral plane to try their luck. Let's not talk about this. Our mission here is to represent the higher-ups to receive the disciples who have passed the competition and become the Eternal Star Sun or have performed well. These disciples are having a harder time than us. We did not even encounter the star origin array in the past. We won step by step in the arena with our own strength. If the sect wants to be strong, we cannot be complacent. We have to absorb the good things from other forces. Only then can the sect become stronger. After chatting for a while, they began to look at the star origin array in front of them. At this moment, another 2 hours passed. Outside the star origin array, there were tens of thousands of genius seedlings floating around. Each of them sat cross-legged and released their young immortals. There were also higher-ups around them constantly reminding them. Until the star origin array suddenly exploded with starlight and the array changed. Following the orders of the higher-ups, some of the disciples' young immortals began to enter the array. Baby Huangfu lifted his 1-foot-tall young immortal and looked at Su Fang. Brother, don't give up so easily. We have to become the eternal star sun together and enter the inner dojos to cultivate. We will become elite disciples. We were able to escape from a dangerous place like the desolate pond astral plane. This test is nothing. Brother Bao, don't worry. I will grit my teeth and persevere. No matter what, I will try my best to pass the elimination round. Haha, good. When the time comes, we will enter the inner dojos to cultivate together. With shifty smiles on their faces, the two of them extended their hands, and the young immortal flew into the starlight of the star origin array. Chapter 1001. The moment they entered the array formation, they felt different. Normally, they would feel weightless when they entered a training hall or barrier. But this time, the young immortal felt weightless the moment he entered the array formation. It felt like the young immortal was breathing. The star essence array made the young immortal extremely real. With the senses similar to the main body, the young immortal's height also increased to the height of a normal person. It was like a lifelike Su Fang. The star origin formation is indeed profound and unfathomable. The moment I step into it, a divine aura will make the young immortal become as real as the main body. The Su Fang's young immortal continued to gain weight, but it was less than 1/10 of the main body. Starlight also surged into his body. Turned out to be a kind of immortal seal. After activating this immortal seal and accumulating 5 points, he could leave the array formation and pass the test. At the same time, the baby Huangfu's true appearance condensed beside him. However, it still looked different from the main body. At least, it was somewhat transparent. He looked around and hurried to the Su Fang's side. Damn it, I feel so creepy. I've been in the training hall for so long, but I've never seen such a magical array formation like the star essence array. Both of them felt uneasy as if they had entered an unfamiliar environment. They heard movement around them. It turned out that the young immortals of the other disciples were in a semi-transparent state. They walked in groups of 2 or 3 and entered the depths of the array formation. Since we're here, let's find a few cowards and crush them. I just need to accumulate 5 points. Let's go in together. After waiting for a while and getting used to it, they flew into the endless star essence array world with the other Huangfu training hall disciples. Boom! Boom! Soon, many Huangfu training hall disciples had just entered the depths when they heard violent vibrations. Just as they were a little afraid, the immortal fog in front of them was suddenly swept away by some force. It seemed like someone was secretly controlling the immortal fog. Then, the disciples' expressions changed. Countless young immortals from other training halls swarmed over like locusts. There was a sea of people, and they were even fighting each other. The destructive starlight from the battle of essence souls, as well as some sword chi formed by essence soul divine might, became more and more terrifying. The celestial mist swept the young immortals from all over the place and quickly engulfed the disciples from Huangfu Dao sect. Su Fang, baby Huangfu, and some other disciples saw that the young immortals of the Dao Hall's disciples were still far away, but they suddenly appeared around them in a distorted state. Moreover, in the next second many disciples had already started fighting. The young immortals used palm strikes, fist techniques, and divine might sword chi, causing the surrounding formations to tremble. Previously, they were surrounded by Huangfu Dojo's young immortals, but now almost all of them were fighting with the young immortals of other dojos. Baby Huangfu's eyebrows suddenly furrowed like swords. You're looking for a pushover. Brother, be careful. This is the primordial spirit world. This is not my advantage. Furthermore, I can't activate my treasures. I'll lure those people away. Rustle after he finished speaking, he rushed to the right of the 7 or 8 disciples, Yang Xian. Yang Xian was actually flying in this star origin formation. This was probably the effect of the star origin formation's divine might. Su Fang couldn't care too much for now. However, there was a saying that he was trying to figure out. That was, he was looking for a pushover. Whoosh! Taking advantage of the chaos around him, Su Fang immediately rode on the churning celestial cloud. Only now did he truly have the perspective of a single person. Disciples from different dojos were fighting in every part of the formation. Su Fang was used to seeing all kinds of fighting. Moreover, with the protection of the star origin formation, there was no danger to his life. It was just a battle between primordial spirit. Bang! Suddenly, a deafening explosion came from the side. He turned around and saw a young immortal from a cave immortal disciple being covered by a powerful palm strike. That palm strike was filled with primordial spirit divine might, and it was formed into thick fingerprints. It was very powerful. Humph! Above the fingerprints was a young immortal from a heavenly immortal disciple. Looking at his robe, Su Fang knew that he was a peerless genius from Xinghua Spirit Sky. I admit defeat. That young immortal from a cave immortal disciple couldn't struggle. If he didn't admit defeat, then the young immortal from a heavenly immortal expert would continue to attack. Even if he couldn't kill the young immortal, he would be severely injured. It wouldn't be worth it. The young immortal from the heavenly immortal disciple released his divine might and sucked out an immortal seal from that cave immortal disciple. Suddenly, he stared at Su Fang like a fierce tiger. I'll take the first point. As long as every cave immortal disciple from Huangfu Dojo isn't someone like Di Qingyue, I'll beat them up. You'll be my second point. Tisk! Before this expert was about to attack Su Fang already sensed that something was wrong. He flew toward the formation that was fighting in midair. The expert was furious. As for the young immortal disciple who admitted defeat, his young immortal instantly turned into smoke and disappeared. Where do you think you're going? Haha, a heavenly immortal can't suppress a cave immortal like you. You'll be my second point. However, Su Fang's young immortal speed was really shocking. After exploding, he disappeared from the area where the experts were fighting and entered deeper into the clouds. That expert who was chasing after him found other cave immortal targets and stopped chasing after Su Fang. This is the best time for me to accumulate points. With my current strength, it's best to deal with the cave immortals. If I drag this on, those cave immortals will be defeated by the heavenly immortal expert. Then, I'll have to spend more effort to deal with the heavenly immortal genius young immortals. Suddenly, he turned around and descended from the immortal clouds. He frowned inwardly. Suddenly, he raised his eyebrows and secretly activated the heavenly demon disintegration seal. With a whoosh, the immortal fog spread out. Below him was also a formation space where the young immortals from the 9 major dojo disciples were fighting. Su Fang used his shocking gaze and locked onto a cave immortal disciple who was escaping. Coincidentally, he was a disciple from the hidden Immortal Valley Dojo. His realm was probably at the high-level cave immortal realm. TSK. The young immortal's body suddenly increased his speed by 10 times. In the young immortal's body, a large number of formations were activated. These were the countless layers of formations that Su Fang planted in the young immortal's body when he cultivated the heavenly demon disintegration seal. Each formation had shocking power. Pa! His speed was several times faster than that of the hidden Immortal Valley Cave immortal disciple. Just as the other party turned around in fear, Su Fang spat out a sword chi primordial spirit divine power net. Like a spider web, the disciple was trapped. The other party's young immortal divine power couldn't resist Su Fang's power at all. The divine power suddenly shattered. With a flash of lightning, Su Fang grabbed a sword chi condensed from his primordial spirit and pressed it in front of the bound disciple's chest. Take out your immortal seal, or I won't be polite. The other party turned into a cocoon and couldn't struggle free. Looking at the incomparably sharp sword Qi in Su Fang's hand, he said fiercely, "You're a disciple of the Huang Fu Dojo. I'll remember you. I'll definitely settle this grudge with you." Humph! Still dilly-dallying? Su Fang couldn't afford to waste any more time. With a powerful slap, the divine power palm grabbed an immortal seal from the other party's body. I won't forget you." That disciple seemed to have been greatly humiliated. He stared at Su Fang, but in less than 3 breaths, his entire young immortal body disappeared into thin air. First point. With a chill in his heart, Su Fang turned around and suddenly jumped up. In front of him were a few young immortals fighting. He noticed that 2 of them were cave immortals, but just as he was about to attack, he suddenly saw a female young immortal. Looking at her appearance, she should be a disciple of the Bodhi spiritual world. She actually shot out a shocking wave of primordial spirit energy from her eyes, blasting away one of the cave immortals. The other one was sent flying by her palm and was forcefully suppressed in mid-air. The disciples of the Bodhi spiritual world couldn't be offended. They were too strong. He turned around and flew for a while to avoid the attention of the heaven immortal expert. Suddenly, he saw another prey. Yes, he was a hunter. When he saw a cave immortal disciple, he regained the calmness and ruthlessness of a hunter. In front of him was a cave immortal disciple who was running away in fear. Looking at his appearance, he was also a Bodhi spiritual world disciple, but he was just a cave immortal. Whoosh! A force exploded and flew out. In midair, a supreme primordial spirit energy burst out from his eyes. This was a Bodhi spiritual world disciple whose cultivation level had reached the peak of the cave immortal realm. He was originally an expert who could reach the peak of the cave immortal realm after cultivating for 10,000 years. However, this person's young immortal cultivation level was ordinary. When he sensed the danger and the pressure of the divine aura, he turned around and looked at the large amount of divine aura coming at him. He was angry and said, "Huang Fu Dao Hall." Pa. The divine aura turned into a torrential primordial spirit energy flame. The young immortal disciple at the peak of the cave immortal realm also used his aura to resist, but when he encountered Su Fang's primordial spirit energy flame, he collapsed. Su Fang's primordial spirit energy flame was like a shocking wave, while the disciple's young immortal divine aura was like an ordinary wave. When they collided, it instantly collapsed. Su Fang's primordial spirit directly crushed it and stepped on the disciple's young immortal. Su Fang controlled the divine aura, surrounded by collapsing primordial spirit. He shook his body and said, "Hand over the immortal seal. Otherwise, I can heavily injure your young immortal with my next move. You won't be able to recover without a few hundred years. If I really use my full strength, you won't be able to recover even after 1,000 years. You are so unlucky. You were hiding from those heaven immortal disciples, but you didn't expect that. I will remember you." That disciple admitted his unlucky luck and obediently condensed the immortal seal. Qi, who knew that at this moment, a stunning primordial spirit energy aura directly turned into a huge hand. When that disciple was condensing the immortal seal, it suddenly attacked from the side. Su Fang suddenly turned around and saw a cave immortal young immortal disciple hiding in the immortal fog. It turned out that he had been waiting for a chance to effortlessly snatch the fruit. Go. It was fine if it was just a heaven immortal young immortal, but this cave immortal disciple dared to rob him halfway. He spat out a stream of primordial spirit energy flame that was almost like a fire dragon and pounced towards the primordial spirit energy hand. Hoo-pa! The two divine auras collided, and the primordial spirit energy exploded like sparks and lightning. The huge hand that sneak attacked was actually burned into pieces. It's actually a tough one. That sneak attacker was startled and hastily retreated. In his shock, he took another look at Su Fang before hastily turning around and fleeing. Su Fang looked at that back. That's a disciple of the Defying Immortal Pavilion. It seems that these disciples are not people who follow the rules. Each one is stronger than the other, craftier than the other. Then he turned around and took the immortal seal from that disciple's hand. He looked at it and smiled domineeringly. Second point. 2 points. 3 points left. Remember to give it to me. The disciple who gave up the immortal seal was unhappy and resentful as he disappeared. Why is it that losers always don't truly face their failures? Seeing that disappearing gaze, Su Fang sneered, not treating it as a big deal. Because this was an elimination competition arranged by the sect. If there was any trouble, the sect would directly judge. He put away the immortal seal. He had already obtained 2 points. Next was the third point. Obtaining 5 points will allow you to pass. Obtaining 10 points will allow you to become a cave immortal disciple of the Eternal Star. Don't run out of points. Su Fang was so anxious that he flew out of the immortal fog like a hungry tiger. He avoided several powerful heaven, immortal young immortals, and looked around for cave immortal disciples. Soon, he found another cave immortal disciple. There were very few cave immortal young immortals in the surroundings. After all, those heaven immortal young immortals were too domineering. They could sweep through almost any cave immortal young immortal. Chapter 1002. Getting 2 points didn't arouse Su Fang's domineering aura. Because in his eyes, these cave immortal disciples were no match for him. Not to mention young immortals, they couldn't even compare to him in terms of strength. Now, a cave immortal disciple's young immortal was considered powerful. He had just defeated another young immortal and was a little tired. This disciple came from a familiar dojo, which was the Heavenly Cloud Cave Dojo. He flew over. That Heavenly Cloud Cave disciple's cultivation was at the peak of the cave immortal realm. He probably cultivated for thousands of years to reach this realm. After all, it wasn't easy to enter the cave immortal realm. Using the Heavenly Cloud Cave to absorb stars sounded easy, but it was extremely difficult to do. That disciple wasn't an ordinary person. He could cultivate to the cave immortal realm in 10,000 years, and with his young immortal cultivation, he probably got 1 or 2 points. This meant that young immortals were stronger than ordinary people. Huang Fu Dojo's disciple. That person instantly felt something was wrong. A divine aura came from behind him. When he turned around, he saw Su Fang rushing over like starlight. He knew what Su Fang meant. He smiled coldly. It seemed that he wasn't afraid of Huang Fu Dojo's disciples. He also flew up at an astonishing speed. As his hands formed a seal, his young immortal split into 2. Su Fang's gaze froze. Oh, you're really not simple. You can cultivate young immortals to such a state. This way, young immortals can use divine aura and supernatural powers more freely. That disciple was very young, and his speed was getting faster and faster. The 2 young immortals intertwined with each other, and turned into a sky full of primordial spirit sword lights that resembled the 7 stars annihilation sword formation. You actually want to take advantage of me? You are gravely mistaken. Cave immortal against cave immortal. My young immortal is almost at the level of a heavenly immortal. What a coincidence. I'm collecting the 3rd point, and you're also collecting the 3rd point. After Su Fang finished speaking, he still attacked with his young immortal alone. He didn't use the Sky Devil Disintegration Seal. Sky Devil Disintegration Seal. It was easy to separate a young immortal from the primordial spirit technique of the Demon Tao. It was even easier to separate 2 young immortals. They could be divided into hundreds and thousands. This was Su Fang's true young immortal technique. He hadn't even used 1% of his strength. Chi. The 2 of them rushed into the air and clashed with each other with their Yuan Shen auras. The 2 Yuan Shen auras rubbed against each other and formed a flame. That disciple was startled. You really do have some skills. Hee, of course I have some tricks up my sleeve. I can see that you're not a simple young immortal. You're quite a character compared to most of the cave immortals. I'm Huang Fu Xiaoying from Huang Fu Dojo. If you don't hold a grudge against me in the future, I'm very willing to be friends with you. You're already a big part of the cave immortals. Huang Fu Xiaoying, I have to extinguish your arrogance. If you can defeat me, I'll tell you who I am. Alright. Chi. The two of them took a step forward at the same time. The disciple fused the dozens of primordial spirit sword chi that he had been condensing for a long time, forming a primordial spirit sword circle that was more than 10 feet wide. Under the support of this person's mana, the primordial spirit sword formation, along with the rolling primordial spirit divine aura, slashed towards Su Fang like a sword formation from outer space. Sword formation, form. Su Fang had only just formed a seal and absorbed mana. This was the first time he was facing a young immortal. Similarly, a sword chi halo that was twice as powerful as the primordial spirit sword formation. In less than 3 breaths, when the primordial spirit sword formation was in front of him, it went against the momentum and hit the primordial spirit sword formation. Boom boom. In an instant, the two primordial spirit sword formations were about to crush each other. However, that disciple suddenly couldn't hold it in anymore. He staggered and was thrown off his feet by the momentum. The primordial spirit sword formation was also smashed into pieces. Su Fang stepped on the broken sword chi and quickly passed by. Seeing this, that disciple struggled to control the young immortal and then spat out waves of primordial spirit chi. Su Fang used the divine might of a young immortal to shatter the essence spirit chi wave with one punch after another. With an imposing manner, he advanced step by step. No matter how the disciple used his primordial spirit chi to resist, he couldn't stop Su Fang's advance. Only when Su Fang suddenly sped up and formed a primordial spirit chain with his palm did he calm down. I'm convinced. You're strong. The man was very quiet and nodded tiredly. He immediately condensed the immortal seal and handed it to Su Fang. Then, without waiting for him to say anything, the entire young immortal disappeared. Third point. He really met a good opponent. However, this person could only be considered to have surpassed most people, but not to the extent that he could fight with his full strength. He didn't think too much about it. He couldn't afford to waste time. Not long after he flew out, he saw 2 young immortals dodging the heavenly immortal's primordial spirit chi. Clearly, these 2 people came from the same dojo and seemed to want to join forces to deal with the enemy and obtain points. This was a good idea. That's right. I'm just 2 points away. Let's pass the test first. These 2 are mine. Seeing the 2 flying in front of him, Su Fang chased after them without hesitation. If he took down the 2 of them, he would obtain 5 points and pass the elimination round. With his cave immortal realm and primordial spirit chi, being able to pass the elimination round was already enough to shock countless people. After a few breaths, the 2 young immortal disciples also seemed to have locked onto their target. Their target was a cave immortal disciple. Su Fang looked from afar and was happy. He actually used his primordial spirit chi to control the immortal mist and secretly watched the 2 of them join forces to deal with that disciple. The 2 of them were still fighting. One of them was in charge of sneak attacks, while the other was in charge of holding back that person. They cooperated very well. It seemed that the 2 of them had a very good relationship in the dojo. It looked like the 3 of them were fighting fiercely, but in Su Fang's eyes, their moves and primordial spirit chi attacks were very ordinary. Even if the 3 of them joined forces, he could still suppress all of them in a certain amount of time. However, if he really did that, it would be too shocking. Even heavenly immortal realm geniuses were not so heaven-defying. After waiting for half an incense stick's time, the disciple who was surrounded could no longer hold on. He was extremely tired and would probably admit defeat. It was time. Su Fang stepped on the speed of a flying sword and suddenly jumped out of the immortal cloud. Brother, wait! The two of them were about to use their final move on that disciple to make him submit completely. However, they did not expect a primordial spirit chi to suppress them from above. When they looked up, they saw Su Fang controlling a shocking primordial spirit chi. He turned it into a sword chi halo that was 100 feet in size. The sword chi halo's primordial spirit chi had a suppressive aura that was like Mount Tai pressing down on them. So powerful! Isn't he a cave immortal? He just snatched our prey. The two of them were not ordinary. They could immediately tell that Su Fang was a cave immortal. They were also surprised by Su Fang's primordial spirit sword formation. However, the two of them immediately formed hand seals. However, they were wrong. Because Su Fang was controlling the sword formation. His target was them. When they formed hand seals to release the sword formation, it seemed that the formation was not bad. However, Su Fang's speed was even more shocking. The sword chi halo suppressed and landed on the two of them's sword formation. In the blink of an eye, the primordial spirit chi's primordial spirit chi was like a landslide. Give it to me. Su Fang did not continue to attack. He took a step forward and suddenly grabbed a sword beam. He passed through the exploding primordial spirit chi and arrived in front of the besieged disciple who was about to escape. This disciple was a heavenly disciple of the star origin realm. He was a cave immortal and his cultivation level was at the 8 Dao realm. He was considered powerful for being able to survive until now. Huangfu Bodhidharma, you are so powerful. You are suppressing our cave immortal. The man was forced into a corner. He had seen how powerful Su Fang was with his own eyes. The two of them were not his match. Could he, a disciple who was on the verge of collapse, resist? He obediently condensed an immortal seal and handed it to Su Fang. Only then did Su Fang turn around. In a flash, he arrived above the sword formation that was still in a stalemate. He put away the immortal seal and looked at the two resisting experts below. The fourth task is to deal with the Yang Immortal, a cave immortal disciple. To me, obtaining the immortal seal is as easy as taking something out of my pocket. I know you are not convinced, so I will beat you until you are convinced. After obtaining the fourth task, Su Fang looked at the two resisting disciples with a domineering gaze. He then condensed a primordial spirit sword formation. Sword chi constantly roared and released a dazzling light. In an instant, most of the sword formation's remaining power was crushed. So powerful, the two people resisted painfully. However, Su Fang's primordial spirit sword formation was too domineering and sturdy. It was not something that could be easily broken. In the end, the two had no choice but to agree. That's right. The fifth and sixth task. Su Fang arrived in front of the two people from the sword formation's remaining power. After obtaining 2 immortal seals, he smiled slightly. Because he had achieved his goal with 5 points. Now that he had 6 points, the rest would be easier. He only had one goal, and that was to collect the remaining 4 points and directly become the Eternal Star Child in this star origin formation elimination competition. Just as he moved, a vast voice rang out. Huangfu Dao writes, Disciple Huangfu Shaoying, you have already collected 5 points. Can you leave the formation? Not for now. Disciple wants to obtain 10 points and become the Eternal Star Child. Su Fang's voice was filled with respect. Obtaining 10 points is good. There aren't many disciples who can aim for 10 points. Everyone who obtains 5 points will immediately pass the test and leave the star origin formation. Go. After that person finished speaking, it was as if he didn't exist. The star origin formation was truly powerful. Although it looked like it was used to test disciples, there were actually countless higher-ups and powerful disciples guarding the formation's inner world. He had to collect the next 4 points as quickly as possible. Before long, he encountered another immortal cave disciple. That person was also very powerful. He had already collected 4 points. He was just 1 point away from success. When he encountered Su Fang, he thought he had found food. But in less than 2 moves, he was defeated by Su Fang. He had to hand over the divine seal, allowing Su Fang to obtain the 7th point. Unfortunately, the rules of the star origin formation were cruel. If someone had already obtained a few points and defeated that person would not be able to obtain the points of that person. Therefore, the star origin formation elimination competition was very strict. In less than an hour, Su Fang had obtained the 8th and 9th points. He was 1 point away from obtaining 10 points and completing his goal to become the eternal star child. However, there were very few young, immortal cave disciples. Most of them were heavenly immortal geniuses. Swish, just when he was looking for prey and was about to accumulate 10 points, a nascent soul suddenly came from behind him. Su Fang took a look and saw that it was a woman. The woman's robe had some clouds on it. It was either colorful or silver. Ruoshui Spiritual Land. This woman was a disciple of the mysterious Tao Right Ruoshui Spiritual Land. She was also a genius. Even though she was only at the 9th immortal cave realm, her young immortal was very powerful. She did not seem to be at the immortal cave realm. Instead, she was a heavenly immortal. Part of the woman's young immortal was transparent. But her robe was very real. Her face was delicate and pretty. She did not have any heavy makeup on. She stared at Su Fang and said, "Do you want me to attack or do you want to hand over the divine seal? I am just 1 point away. If you hand it over, everything will be over. Also, there are only heavenly immortals around. There are not many immortal cave disciples left. You have no hope. I am sorry. You have found the wrong person. I am also looking for immortal cave disciples, but not you." He did not expect such a beautiful woman to be so powerful. Su Fang suddenly sped up and flew past the woman to the other side of the fog. Chapter 1003. The female disciple who was left behind was in disbelief. She stopped abruptly and floated in the air. This person is clearly a cave immortal. I don't remember the disciples of Huangfu Dojo. Among the cave immortal geniuses, there isn't such a person. Most of the cave immortal disciples in Huangfu Dojo are trying to break through to the heaven immortal realm in the past 1,000 years. For example, Di Qingyue is one of them. Could this person be a hidden genius? But I don't think so. After all, the outer dojos are all cave immortals and a small number of heaven immortals. This person gives me the feeling that he is just an ordinary young immortal. So he hid his cultivation. That speed and that calm gaze just now, even heaven immortal geniuses wouldn't be as calm and profound as him. He is a character. I don't really care about the elimination round, especially at the last moment. I can't let my guard down. The woman focused for a moment and then flew in another direction. A real man doesn't fight with a woman. In another immortal fog, Su Fang was shuttling through. He thought of the budding girl from before, but he didn't have the slightest intention to fight. If it was a man, he wouldn't be polite. Yes. After searching many places and shuttling through the immortal fog, he didn't find any cave immortals or young immortals. Could it be that he had to take back the 10th point from a heaven immortal genius disciple? But at this moment, a cave immortal young immortal suddenly flew over from the clouds ahead and came straight at them. It was like finding something without any effort after searching high and low for it. That person also saw Su Fang and was surprised. Then, he became complacent and suddenly sped up. A primordial spirit chi wave suddenly locked onto Su Fang's back. This person was in his early 20s. He was very handsome and looked like a pale-faced scholar. However, the way he looked at Su Fang was filled with a bone-chilling coldness. As he stared at Su Fang, he said arrogantly, "So the last point was taken from you. At this point in the elimination round, usually the cave immortals are the first to be eliminated. They are all weak. I guess there are only a few cave immortals left in this star origin formation. I didn't expect one to be sent to me. Another disciple from the star origin realm. Su Fang's path of retreat was blocked by the airwaves, but he was not in a hurry. This was because the person in front of him was his last opponent. A 9th Dao realm cave immortal from the star origin realm. You are indeed a genius. Furthermore, your young immortal is also outstanding. No wonder you are so arrogant. Disciple of the Huangfu Training Hall, I won't hold back. The man suddenly released his energy and created gusts of wind that made his white robe flutter in the air. Ho ho ho! In a split second, an astonishing sword formation primordial spirit halo appeared in front of Su Fang under the man's divine power and the celestial seal. It was only 10 feet away. Oh, so you admitted defeat of your own accord. Seeing that Su Fang did not move at all and was like a block of wood, the man smiled in surprise. Coincidentally, he also stopped condensing his hand seals. It seemed like he wanted to stop attacking. However, Su Fang raised his hand at this moment. Your young immortal's divine power is so powerful. Come on, I will defeat you and leave this star origin formation. I, Nangong Jun, am a genius of the star origin realm. You are just a disciple of the Huangfu Training Hall. You are not famous. You are not a genius like Di Qingyue or Yin Rongrong. You are just boasting. Nangong Jun snorted. He was not angry. He felt that he had been tricked by Su Fang. In a split second, the sword formation halo became even more amazing. In the halo, each sword chi condensed by the primordial spirit was arranged neatly. It could be seen that Nangong Jun had been cultivating diligently. He had cultivated the sword formation to such a high level that he had surpassed most of the cave immortal disciples. Coupled with his 9th Dao realm cave immortal cultivation, he would soon become a celestial immortal. Come on. Su Fang also formed a seal in an instant. A sword formation halo that was less than 1/3 the size of his opponent was turning into a sword chi sword formation with the primordial spirit as the source. You have some skills, but your realm seems to be insignificant. It is not a big deal to be a young immortal. I, Nangong Jun, will let you know what a genius is. I am not afraid of any genius. Pa. Nangong Jun suddenly took a step forward and soared into the sky. The primordial spirit sword formation that he had released was also as light as a feather. It was like a sea of primordial spirit clouds formed by sword chi that pressed down on Su Fang. It was only a distance of 10 feet. In the blink of an eye, Su Fang let go of his hand and struck the sword array. Boom! The sword formation was like a huge flying sword that struck the even bigger sword formation. The two of them shook at almost the same time. Nangong Jun's powerful sword formation suddenly seemed to have encountered a huge force that it could not suppress. The huge force had the momentum to move mountains and rivers. It rose into the sky and actually shattered a portion of the sword formation. Bang! Su Fang released another sword formation. It was still not as huge as the sword formation above. Furthermore, while Nangong Jun was still in shock, the sword formation struck the huge sword formation with lightning speed. This time, the sword formation was completely suppressed. You are an expert. Ruthless. Only then did Nangong Jun realize that he had met his match. He was in a sorry state as he was pushed back by the sword formation. His primordial spirit's divine might was also being shattered. He was forced to activate his young immortal. A primordial spirit golden armor condensed on his body. Then, a third more sword chi than before appeared around him. It immediately transformed into a sword formation. Su Fang quickly approached. When he saw the sword formation, he sneered. Nangong Jun, is this your full strength? You are quite powerful. You can surpass most cave immortals. You are almost comparable to a heaven immortal. You are courting death. If I release my full strength, you will not be able to resist. Go. Then you can try. He condensed a sword formation. It still did not look domineering or powerful, especially when Nangong Jun's strength flew down from above. It felt like the other party was a huge mountain that wanted to crush his small mountain peak. It was also under such a shocking disparity in vision and strength that Su Fang's sword formation rose abruptly. With another rumble, it once again blocked the suppression of the gigantic sword formation above. It was filled with the explosive force of the shattering of the primordial spirit. Tut tut tut. Nangong Jun shook along with the sword formation. His young immortal danced crazily. His hand suppressed the primordial spirit's aura, and his aura supported and controlled the sword formation. There was another sword formation explosion. This time, Su Fang doubled the size of the sword formation. He pushed the sword formation with his palm and hit the other party's sword formation with a bang. Rumble. This time, it was not a collision. Instead, it directly shattered the other party's sword formation. Layer after layer, sword chi after sword chi shattered. These sword formations and sword chi were all formed by primordial spirit. Therefore, when they shattered, they formed a shocking primordial spirit's divine might. But finally, as the sword formation collapsed and shattered, Nangong Jun, who was controlling the sword formation, was instantly overturned. The young immortal's divine might around him was shattered. Su Fang was still calm. He did not use his full strength. He passed through the shattered sword formation. Nangong Jun, you are a genius and indeed powerful. However, in the end, I still won. Sorry, your immortal seal is mine. I also want to successfully leave this star origin formation. Don't be so smug. You are just an ant-like disciple. Do you know who I am? If you have the ability, you and I can call more people over and fight openly. Openly? Weren't we just fighting openly? I, Nangong Jun, am not convinced. I don't believe you are my match. If you are not convinced, that is your business. If you don't believe me, that is also your business. I only look at the result. Moreover, I know that your immortal seal will be mine. If you don't hand it over, I will beat you until you hand it over. You are just an ordinary disciple. After Nangong Jun was pushed back, he immediately stabilized his body. His young immortal's divine might was disappearing. It was clear that after fighting Su Fang with all his strength, he did not have much strength left. However, Su Fang's speed was increasing. In less than 2 breaths, he could suppress Nangong Jun. Who dares to harm my brother? Unexpectedly, a majestic voice suddenly sounded from behind Nangong Jun. Yes. When Su Fang heard it, he knew that this voice was not simple. A young immortal was very domineering. Give it to me. He increased his speed. In a breath's time, he would use his divine might to snatch the treasure from Nangong Jun. You still dare to attack? Whoosh. Suddenly, a primordial spirit flying sword came from behind Nangong Jun. There were many chains on it. It was obviously a terrifying primordial spirit attack. Brother! Nangong Jun suddenly leaped over. He cooperated well with the primordial spirit flying sword. Su Fang's divine might also reached over and clashed with the primordial spirit flying sword. They clashed and Su Fang was pushed back. That primordial spirit sword chi also exploded. Whoosh! Suddenly, a few extraordinary young immortals appeared. They were actually 3 heaven immortal young immortals. Moreover, they were all peerless geniuses of the star origin realm. The one in the middle looked 60% similar to Nangong Jun. It was obvious that they were brothers. Run! Seeing that the situation was not good, Su Fang immediately ran away. Whoosh! However, the 2 heaven immortal geniuses were even faster and reacted in time. In an instant, they flew to the left and the right, blocking Su Fang's path. Nangong Jun was very angry, but he was also very pleased. He looked at the man who looked very similar to him and said, "Brother, this guy is not simple. His young immortal is very domineering. You have to avenge me. I want his immortal seal." The man said indifferently, "You bullied my little brother, and you still want to leave safely? There is no such thing in this world. Brother Xiao, if you take down this disciple, you can also obtain the immortal seal." The two experts blocking the way said embarrassedly, acting as if this matter did not concern them. Nangong Xiao suddenly stared at Nangong Jun. "You are also useless. You can't even defeat a cave immortal. Aren't you known as the #1 cave immortal expert in the sect? Brother, this person is a freak. I can't fight him even with my full strength." Nangong Jun was like a child, not daring to speak loudly. "You have to know that there is always someone stronger. I, Nangong Xiao, am the #1 genius of the Star Origin realm, but I will not look down on any opponent. Yes, I still have many things to learn from brother." How lively! Just as Nangong Xiao was about to attack after being surrounded by several heavenly immortal experts, a young immortal suddenly appeared. Unexpectedly, a young immortal flew over from the side, and he was also a heavenly immortal expert. When he saw this scene, he seemed to know what had happened. Then, he sneered at Nangong Xiao. "Nangong Xiao, you are also a peerless genius of the Star Origin realm. You have long since become one of the 10 great eternal star children in this competition of 10,000 years. Yet, you are willing to fight against a grotto immortal with a few others." Nangong Xiao sized up this male young immortal and said politely, "Li Yaotian, this has nothing to do with you. It also has nothing to do with your immortal defying pavilion. This brat bullied my little brother. How can I let him go? Furthermore, for the elimination round, attacking a cave immortal disciple is also within the rules of the competition." Li Yaotian from the immortal defying pavilion looked around. "Haha, look. I am not the only one here. There are others watching all of this from the shadows. You have no shame. If you are really someone, you can find a heavenly immortal expert to fight." Nangong Xiao wanted to protect him to the end. He walked forward step by step. "I don't want his immortal seal. I am just venting for my brother. If you want to watch, just watch. If I violate any rules, I will naturally stop." Chapter 1004. Li Yaotian from the Celestial Defying Pavilion sneered. "Haha, you're a peerless expert of the Celestial Origin realm. Why do you have to attack a cave immortal? Shouldn't cave immortals solve their own problems?" "I don't care about other people's problems, but here, Chi. After Nangong Xiao finished speaking, his aura was overbearing. He began to walk forward step by step, as if it was his responsibility to deal with a cave immortal. Brother Li watched the show. Suddenly, a few more young immortals appeared. They had a good relationship with Li Yaotian from the Celestial Defying Pavilion. Nangong Xiao didn't stop when he saw them appear. It seemed that no one could stop him today. Moreover, some young immortals who were passing by stopped to watch the show when they saw so many celestial immortals gathered together. "It's him." There were dozens of people around watching the show. One of them was a woman. She was the woman from the Ruoshui spiritual land who had almost attacked Su Fang. Although she was only a cave immortal, in the eyes of those celestial immortal geniuses, this cave immortal woman had power that they couldn't underestimate. In everyone's eyes, only Su Fang was left. He was a lamb that was about to be killed by Nangong Xiao. Many people looked at him with pity and sympathy. Little did they know, Su Fang's heart was in turmoil. "I'm just 1 point away from accumulating 10 points and becoming the eternal star sun. Why do they have to go against me with just 1 point? Nangong Xiao is a genius of the Celestial Origin realm. He's probably an expert on the same level as Di Qingyue from the Huangfu dojo. A celestial immortal disciple wants to attack me. Since it's come to this, I won't surrender. Most importantly, I've already completed my goal and accumulated 9 points. So what if I can't get that 1 point? I've already passed the elimination round. Since I can't become the eternal star sun, I must fight this celestial immortal disciple, Nangong Xiu. I want to see how big the gap is between a celestial immortal and a cave immortal disciple. If I can't win, I can condense an immortal cloud and leave. He can't do anything to me. Su Feng, who couldn't go anywhere, was stuck in the air. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed. He walked step by step toward Nangong Xiu. The eyes of the surrounding geniuses were filled with disbelief. They couldn't understand the motives of a grotto immortal disciple. On the contrary, Nangong Xiu stopped in her tracks, and her innate arrogance was ignited. Brat, are you going to take the initiative to hand over the immortal seal and kowtow to my brother to admit your mistake? Su Feng smiled calmly and said, In my entire life I've never admitted my wrongs. I even have to kowtow to my knees. Why would I kneel to you? Impudent! You dare to act so recklessly in front of my brother? Before Nangong Xiu could get angry, Nangong Jun, who was standing behind her, flew into a rage. Don't worry. Is he going to jump? Nangong Xiu's tone was as cold as ice. Nangong Jun, if your strength was as great as your mouth, you wouldn't have asked your brother to come out. Speaking of which, you, Nangong Jun, are still stronger than many 9 Dao Realm Grotto immortals. Su Feng spoke again. I'm from Huangfu Dojo, an insignificant and ordinary disciple. But I'm not a pushover. Even if I'm an ant, I have to fight back. Nangong Xiu's face turned cold. You're infuriating me. Whether I infuriate you or not, you won't let me go. My fate is to be defeated by you. You'll step on my body and take away my immortal seal. Since that's my fate, why don't I choose to change it? Either way I'll fail. That way I can give it a try. Like I said before, although I'm an ant, the fact that I'm standing here means that I'm also a part of the competition. If you want to stand up for your brother, or if you want face, then come. If I'm not strong enough, I won't make a sound. I've seen many lowly people like you. Let's not waste everyone's time. Losers can't change their fate no matter what. Whoosh! Who would have thought that a grand celestial immortal disciple, a genius from the star origin realm heaven, would ignore everyone's gazes and openly attack a grotto immortal? In truth, this also showed how merciless and cruel the cultivation laws of the constellation of 9 heavens were. Without strength, one could only be suppressed like this. In less than a breath's time, Nangong Xiu rushed towards Su Feng with a crushing momentum. After his young immortal's divine aura exploded, it turned into a shocking wave of divine aura that was dozens of feet long. Furthermore, the wave quickly turned into an ocean. Primordial Spirit Ocean. Although it was only a primordial spirit ocean, it could be seen how shocking divine aura Nangong Xiu's primordial spirit was. She was determined to defeat Su Feng to vent her anger. I saw how extraordinary he was just now. Can you overcome this fate? You, who came from Huangfu Daorite, give me the feeling that you're hiding your strength. I'm also a grotto immortal, and you're also a grotto immortal. Let's fight for our dignity. Let's fight for a stick of incense. Don't embarrass our grotto immortals. The grotto immortal woman from the Ruoshui spiritual land also attracted the attention of some male celestial immortal disciples. However, her gaze was fixed on Su Feng, who was in front of her. When Su Feng faced the powerful divine aura ocean, he did not retreat in fright. He instantly spread his hands, and a shocking aura surged into his body. When fighting against such an expert, the outcome will be decided with a single move. As soon as his primordial spirit aura ocean erupted, he saw Nangong Jun turn the primordial spirit ocean into a surging primordial spirit river. He stepped on the primordial spirit river and controlled it to attack and devour Su Feng. A grotto immortal disciple like him would not be able to withstand a single attack. Primordial spirit pure young flame. Su Fang formed a seal seriously for the first time. He did not have much time, and he did not expect to fight a celestial immortal expert in the star origin formation. Fortunately, there were only a few dozen people here. Even if he went all out, not many people would see him. Break! The primordial spirit river leaped 10 feet high and rushed over with Nangong Xiu's roar. Chi-chi! On the other hand, Su Fang calmed down and formed a seal. Suddenly, with him as the center, the Yang Immortal's primordial spirit flame ignited. Primordial spirit true flame! I did not expect a grotto immortal to be able to cultivate a Yang Immortal's flame. This is a primordial spirit true flame that can only be born when the primordial spirit has reached the pinnacle and is combined with a divine ability. So it's that powerful! Nangong Xiu, I'm afraid you won't succeed. The surrounding celestial immortal disciples were all dumbstruck. Previously they were all sympathetic, but now they saw how terrifying Su Fang's Yang Immortal was. As expected, the girl from Ruoshui also opened her watery eyes wide. Spirit overturning clouds. Nangong Xiu held back his shock and controlled the primordial spirit river. Like a golden primordial spirit beast, it opened its mouth towards the burning primordial spirit flame. Primordial spirit sword formation, rise. Su Fang immediately used the demonic disintegration seal secretly. To deal with this celestial immortal expert, he had to use his true ability. Buzz 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 within the burning primordial spirit flame, it turned into a burning primordial spirit sword formation and fused together. With a palm strike, it attacked the primordial spirit river that was biting down from above. This scene attracted everyone's attention. One was a peerless genius from the star origin world. The other was an ordinary grotto immortal disciple from Huangfu Training Hall. Originally, there was no doubt about this fight, but now it became unpredictable. Boom! The primordial spirit river hit the burning sword formation. The dazzling impact made everyone realize that Su Fang's sword formation was actually in a stalemate with the power of the primordial spirit river. What a genius! A grotto immortal disciple from Huangfu Training Hall. It seems like his cultivation has not reached the 9th Dao realm of the grotto immortal realm. It's a pity that it's not easy to see a Yang Immortal's cultivation. Dozens of people exclaimed in surprise. Two sword formations kept exploding from Su Fang, who was in a burning state. One after another, they cooperated with the sword formation above to deal with the impact of the primordial spirit river. A grotto immortal and a celestial immortal publicly entered a stalemate in front of countless people. One side was constantly activating the surging primordial spirit river, while the other side was constantly burning primordial spirit true fire sword formation. Previously, one side was strong and the other was weak, but now it was impossible to see who was stronger. Su Fang suddenly raised his voice. Nangong Xiu, you are a genius, and I'm just a grotto immortal. If you can't even defeat me, how can you be called a genius? By the way, I'm still an ordinary disciple. I'm just a follower of baby Huangfu from Huangfu Training Hall. If you can't even defeat a follower like me, you will definitely be defeated by my young master if you meet him. What? You're really that playboy's follower? Unexpectedly, above the primordial spirit river, Nangong Xiu suddenly trembled. His head buzzed, and he was shocked by Su Fang's words. A servant, a follower. He was so angry that he controlled the remaining primordial spirit river with both hands, forming an even more devouring force. Wave after wave rolled into the sword formation, shattering it. However, Su Fang was also constantly forming seals. Sword formations were added to it, making his small grotto immortal Yang Immortal seem to have infinite power. After about half an incense stick's worth of time, Nangong Xiu used up his strongest primordial spirit river, but he still couldn't defeat Su Fang. He also started to form a sword formation. It's about time. What they didn't know was that a shocking golden armor suddenly formed on Su Fang's young immortal. The defense of the primordial spirit was similar to the flesh fetus divine armor. Then, the 7-star killing sword formation that everyone was familiar with formed in the sky. However, it was mainly formed by the primordial spirit. This time, the sword formation suddenly became 100 feet large. This, his primordial spirit, how can it be so powerful? Impossible, impossible. It completely surpassed the grotto immortal level. It's even more powerful than an ordinary sky immortal. This scene was beyond everyone's expectations. They all widened their eyes as they saw Su Fang's 100 feet large sword formation above Nangong Xiu, who was releasing the sword formation. Su Fang heaved a sigh of relief. The primordial spirit flames on his body suddenly disappeared. He stood with his hands behind his back, looking like an expert who had experienced the vicissitudes of life. Chi! Unexpectedly, he suddenly flashed in the sky. He didn't take the opportunity to attack Nangong Xiu, but Nangong Jun brother. When Nangong Jun appeared, Su Fang's state had already reached its peak. As soon as Nangong Jun regained his wits after shouting for help, Su Fang's palm struck his chest. Wung, Su Fang reached out and plucked out a seal from Nangong Jun's body. Nangong Jun's despair reached its peak. This is mine. This is mine. I want to become the eternal star sun. Ah! On the other side, Nangong Xiu's miserable cries and roars came from the primordial spirit's sword intent that had exploded and collapsed under the sword formation. Unfortunately, Nangong Jun disappeared as he stared blankly at Su Fang grabbing his immortal seal. That kind of unwillingness. From this moment on, Su Fang would probably be Nangong Jun's nightmare for the rest of his life. What a powerful move! I thought he was going to take the opportunity to deal with Nangong Xiu. I didn't expect him to use such a clever move. He caught Nangong Jun off guard, took the immortal seal, and kicked that brat away. Many experts finally understood. None of them looked at Su Fang with arrogance. That was because Su Fang was just as strong as them. Chapter 1005. Success. At this moment, Nangong Xiu no longer existed in Su Fang's heart. He also didn't care about those heavenly immortal geniuses. There was only the immortal seal in his hand. 10 points. He had finally accumulated enough points. Starting now, according to the rules, he had surpassed everyone here. He had jumped from the star origin formation to the eternal star sun. He felt that the immortal seal in his hand was like that dream he had been chasing for a long time. It had been so real, but after obtaining it, it had become so blurry. What a genius! He's like a completely different person from that baby Huangfu. He really is a follower of that Huangfu young master. I don't believe it. In the distance, in the celestial fog, the female cultivator from Ruoshui Spirit Land watched the entire process. Her gaze became even deeper as she stared at Su Fang before she immediately turned around and flew away. Boom! At the center, the collapsed sword energy and the river of Yuan spirit were suddenly shattered by a fist with the momentum of a fierce tiger. Then, the genius of a generation, Nangong Xiu, walked out step by step with great difficulty. There was no remnant Yuan spirit power in her eyes, only Su Fang, who floated in front of her with a slightly lonely expression. The genius from the immortal defying pavilion, Li Yaotian, was also preparing to leave with several other experts. Seeing that unwilling gaze, he sneered, "Nangong Xiu, I didn't think you would have such a day. I already told you not to bully others. They didn't have a choice. You deserved it." Scram! Nangong Xiu was infuriated. He dragged his exhausted body, ignoring everything. The only thing he could see was Su Fang. Stinking brat, I, Nangong Xiu, have never suffered such a great humiliation. Where do you think you're going? Where do I run to? Putting away the immortal seal, Su Fang turned to face Nangong Xiu. You are also a genius, a person with strength. But I'm just a minor character, but I have a backbone. Also, don't be so shameless. In your current state, if you fight me again, I won't see you as my senior apprentice brother. I'll respect you a bit. I could have taken your immortal seal. Nangong Xiu suddenly trembled, as if he was really frightened by Su Fang. He condensed his cold aura and raised his heartbeat. You snatched away my brother's immortal seal and ruined his great future, yet you're still gloating over his misfortune. How can I let you off so easily? If that's the case, then the other losers have all lost their futures. I find it laughable. Cultivators rely on their own hard work. If you can't become the eternal star sun, then can't you become an expert in the future? Come, let's determine the victor. There's no need for that. You're a genius at the heavenly immortal realm. There's no need for me to fight with you to such an extent. Are you scared? Nangong Xiu, I'm just an ordinary disciple. I'm not afraid of you, but Su Fang suddenly appeared in front of Nangong Xiu and the other spectating experts. No one knew how he was going to resolve this. Nangong Xiu continued to press on. But what he didn't expect was, seeing Nangong Xiu closing in, Su Fang actually waved his hand and grabbed. Immortal seals flew out in front of him. There were a total of 10 immortal seals, and Su Fang also shot out an immortal seal. 10 immortal seals. According to the rules, he's already the eternal star sun. The rules have changed this time. No one dares to get 10 points, but a cave immortal like him has done it. The spectating genius's eyes were glued to Nangong Xiu. Nangong Xiu suddenly took a step back and coughed up a mouthful of blood. Only now did she understand why Su Fang was so fearless. He had actually accumulated 10 points and was already the eternal star sun. You used my brother's future to exchange for the eternal star sun. Nangong Xiu wiped her blood and calmed down. After all, she was a heavenly immortal disciple. However, the way he looked at Su Fang was like a meat grinder flickering with a gloomy light. Su Fang released his aura and looked at Nangong Xiu once more. This is the elimination round, and it's a star origin formation. I'm just doing what I should do. If you want to cause trouble for me in the future, I can accompany you at any time. But for now, I won't accompany you. Channel guidance. Suddenly, a Xian Guang enveloped Su Fang's young immortal. Good luck. Nangong Xiu cupped her fists toward Su Fang. A breeze blew, and Su Fang's young immortal completely disappeared, leaving behind the heavenly immortal geniuses who were discussing. Outside the star origin formation, Huangfu Training Hall's camp. At this time, there were no longer thousands of disciples, only a few hundred were still sitting cross-legged. Most of the others had returned to the back and sat down. Most of them were very tired, and some of them had already floated to the high-level area. Those disciples had successfully obtained 5 points and could participate in the second round. The remaining few hundred people were still persevering. Most of them were in the heavenly immortal realm, and only a few of them were in the cave immortal realm. Looking at them sitting cross-legged, they were all sweating profusely. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, at this time, more than 20 people flew over from the star origin formation and the high-level area. All of them were high-level members, and some disciples in charge of the star origin formation were also flying towards Huangfu Training Hall. As for the high-level members of Huangfu Training Hall, such as Huangfu Duan and Huangfu Yunhai, they didn't know what was going on. Why were so many high-level members suddenly flying towards them? They hurriedly rushed over. The other disciples were also very confused, and didn't know what was going on. The surrounding training halls were also attracted by this scene. About 50 to 60 high-level members arrived above the hundreds of disciples. Before the high-level members of Huangfu Training Hall could figure out what was going on, they suddenly looked at Su Fang, who was sitting cross-legged. Buzz, at this time, a few young immortals appeared from the Star Origin formation. They were experts protecting Su Fang's young immortal. After forming the hand seals and using the power of the formation, Su Fang's young immortal immediately returned to his original body, and the high-level young immortals returned to the formation. Comfortable. Su Fang felt a sense of reality, but at this moment, he was very tired. After all, a young immortal had been out of his body for a long time. Even an expert would be exhausted. An old man who came from the high-level camp looked at Su Fang, and he seemed to have the same status as Qiu Ranjing. He looked at everyone. When everyone saw that he was about to speak, they all fell silent. The old man said, "Senior brothers and junior brothers, after the supervision and confirmation of the disciples in the formation, your disciple Huangfu Shaoying has successfully defeated 10 disciples and accumulated 10 points. She is the only disciple in this year's competition to obtain 10 points in the elimination round and become the Eternal Star Sun." Really? Huangfu Duan, Huangfu Yunhai, and the other high-level members of Huangfu Training Hall, including the genius disciple Huangfu Xiao Xiao, were all shocked. They all looked at Su Fang. Under everyone's gaze, Su Fang stood up shakily, almost fainting. He was very tired and didn't even have the strength to salute everyone. He was obviously pretending. With his primordial spirit cultivation, he could instantly return to his previous state. He just didn't want the high-level members to know that he was too extraordinary. Huangfu Yunhai suddenly praised, Good. I didn't expect that the first disciple to be directly promoted to the Eternal Star Sun would be from our training hall. You guys continue to be in charge. I'm going to take him to see the high-level elders. No one expected that the Eternal Star Sun would be born so soon. The old man said a few words to everyone. Then, he led a dozen experts and 2 of them supported Su Fang. In front of countless people, they directly took Su Fang to the high-level camp. At this moment, many disciples were sizing up Su Fang. Damn it. He's the Eternal Star Sun, an elite disciple. If we want to get rid of him, we'll have to spend more energy. Huangfu Yunhai, are you happy now? You must get rid of my adopted son. The high-level members of Huangfu Training Hall left the front of the Star Origin formation and discussed Su Fang. Another person was also staring at Su Fang. It was Huangfu Yunhai. He didn't say that Su Fang was a genius, but he was thinking of a way to get rid of Su Fang in the future. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Su Fang flew over the Star Origin formation under the protection of the high-level members, attracting the attention of all the geniuses who had passed the elimination round. They were all discussing who this amazing disciple was. Above the high-level members of Huangfu Training Hall, the junior elder Qiu Ranjing, and a few other old men were also sizing up Su Fang, who was gradually flying over. Junior apprentice brother Qiu, I didn't think that your Dao right would produce such a good seedling in the past 10,000 years. One of them was a white-haired old man with a pair of thunderous eyes. His domineering gaze was filled with admiration for Su Fang. This kid is Huangfu Shaoying. Since the beginning of the internal testing, his performance has been extraordinary. The high-level members of the training hall have been secretly paying attention to him. Qiu Ranjing was very polite to the old man with thunderous eyes. He said slowly, "It's just that I never expected this kid to have such potential and be so extraordinary in the Star Origin formation. In the past 10,000 years, he's the only one in our sect who has become the Eternal Star Sun at the Cave Immortal Realm. He's a good seedling." The old man with thunderous eyes kept praising the high-level members around him. While praising, some of the high-level members also said that Su Fang was a cultivator who had surpassed his level. All kinds of praises were endless. Under the guidance of the high-level members, Su Fang even saw the baby Huangfu among the geniuses who had qualified for the competition. He also saw the girl from the Ruoshui spiritual land who had almost attacked him before. Qi Yanzi. As soon as he landed, Su Fang didn't have time to look at the high-level members. Instead, he was attracted by a man with long red hair among the elite disciples behind them. After secretly glancing at him, he continued to walk forward with the high-level members. As soon as he saw Qiu Ranjing, Su Fang first bowed to him. Qiu Ranjing was full of praise for Su Fang. After a while, he introduced him to the old man with thunderous eyes. This is our sect's punishment elder. You can call him Elder Qi. Greetings, Elder Qi. He quickly bowed to the old man with thunderous eyes. No wonder this person was so overbearing and strict. It turned out that he was a punishment elder. And Qiu Ranjing was just a small elder in a dojo. This Elder Qi must be an official elder who had great power. Elder Qi nodded. Young people are very energetic. Your skin and hair are seeping with the Star Palace's true qi and very pure world qi. It shows that you have worked hard to cultivate our sect's small phase art to have such brilliant achievements. Su Fang was an unfamiliar face in front of the high-level members. I'm not talented. I'm only in the cave immortal realm. If it wasn't for Miss Huangfu's nurturing and Elder Qiu's care, I wouldn't have such opportunities. This is all thanks to the sect. I'll cultivate more diligently in the future and do my best for the sect in the future. Xiao Fei indeed has a pair of discerning eyes. Speaking of Xiao Fei, I reckon he's about to enter a new realm. Although Elder Qi looked overbearing and didn't like to smile, his tone now was very friendly. Qiu Ranjing bowed to Elder Qi. Next, I'll let Xiaoying become the Eternal Star Sun first and choose a dojo. That's good. Young people with such potential and hard work deserve such treatment. Elder Qi agreed. He ordered people to protect Qiu Ranjing and brought Su Fang to the back. Among the surrounding higher-ups, there were also experts from Huangfu Dojo. They all looked at this genius who had suddenly appeared, as dazzling as the wise eye. When they arrived at the back, Qiu Ranjing suddenly injected a stream of mana into Su Fang's body. He wanted to help Su Fang recover and let him sit down first. I thought he was one of those seedlings who was often talked about and would receive special treatment from the sect. Yes, I didn't expect him to be such an unknown disciple. This person is indeed talented. He looks very ordinary, but he's not simple. He's so young and his cultivation isn't high, but he has such a calm mind. Chapter 1006. Not far away, the elite disciples and the dozens of people who were with Qi Yanzi were also discussing Su Fang. Su Fang sensed that these people were not in the heavenly immortal realm, but had surpassed the heavenly immortal realm. Especially Qi Yanzi, who dared to compete with Dai Yi and fought for the exotic flame seed with those experts in the lonesome flame plains of the Huangze astral world. These people were definitely far beyond the heavenly immortal realm. They were elites. Looking at these disciples, Su Fang rested while absorbing the Dharma power from Qiu Ranjing. Qiu Ranjing also gave him a lot of middle-grade immortal essence pills. In front of many people, Su Fang also began to swallow immortal essence pills. At this time, Qiu Ranjing and a few higher-ups from Huangfu Dojo came to Su Fang. Qiu Ranjing said, "Xiaoying, you are indeed a genius. From the internal testing of the dojo to the elimination round, your potential has been shown to everyone. You have made a name for our dojo. You are also the first person in history to become the Eternal Star Child with a cultivation of the dual immortal realm. Next, you will choose a sect and be conferred the title of Eternal Star Child. You will also become an elite disciple, but there are some things you must know. Please enlighten me, Elder Qiu." Su Fang nodded humbly. Our sect is divided into 3 major dojos. The ordinary one is called the Outer Dao Dojo. The elite one is called the Inner Dao Dojo. Finally, there are the special dojos which are for the elite disciples. Our sect's disciples, starting from the nominal disciples, begin to cultivate in the outer Tao dojo. Through cultivation, they can show their potential and then enter the inner Tao dojo. How far they can go and whether they can enter the special dojo depends on their potential and contribution to the sect. Huangfu Training Hall is only an external training hall, but the disciples who leave here are all members of Huangfu Training Hall. The internal training hall is also different from the external training hall. There are only training halls, and disciples are not allowed to exchange identities. Even if you become an elder in the future, or one of those special disciples, you will still be a member of Huangfu Training Hall. Internal Tao temples are very different from external Tao temples. In external Tao temples, you can cultivate energy arts and divine abilities. But in internal Tao temples, you can cultivate all sorts of extraordinary abilities. For example, you can concoct pills, forge equipment, set up spell formations, appraise treasures, search for treasures, divine abilities, energy arts, and spirit arts of heaven and earth. That's what I want to ask you. Are you interested in any of those aspects? If you don't, you can just go to another Tao temple. Qiu Ranjing's tone was full of concern. Although Su Fang appeared to be in a state of shock, he had actually thought about this problem a long time ago. This was because when he entered the constellation of 9 heavens, he had already determined his goal. Powerful. He had a strong foundation, and had come to the outside world with the goal of finding Xing Chongxing and taking back the third portion of the violet energy magical spirit. Therefore, he had to think of ways to fuse with the purple Qi Dharma spirit in his right arm. He had to strive to fuse with it to a certain extent in the future. Then, he could use most of the purple Qi Dharma spirit in his right arm to sense the whereabouts of the third purple Qi Dharma spirit. This would make it easier to obtain it in the future and fuse with it in a short period of time. Therefore, he wanted to go to the treasure-refining arcane pocket realm. Looking at Qiu Ranjing, his eyes shone with respect. If the Taoist temple doesn't have any special arrangements, then I'll go to the treasure-refining Taoist temple and focus on the treasure-refining Tao temple. Clever. Such an answer made Qiu Ranjing reveal a pleasantly surprised and gratified smile. He stroked his beard. The treasure-refining secret realm is known as the treasure-refining secret realm. Blacksmiths are very popular in the outside world, but there aren't many people who truly cultivate there, and those who can become treasure-refining grandmasters are even fewer. It's good that you have such ambition. The Taoist temple has also considered that every eternal star child who passed the competition will enter one of the secret realms to cultivate. But I didn't expect that the first eternal star child would be you. Since the Taoist temple has arranged it, then I'm a disciple of the Taoist temple. Su Fang was extremely quiet. But after thinking about it, if you can really become a grandmaster in the treasure-refining Tao temple, then it'll be a contribution to the Taoist temple. The Taoist temple respects every disciple's ambition. Since your heart is focused on refining, then I'll go to the treasure-refining secret realm. After you enter, you must have the ambition to become a grandmaster treasure-refining Tao temple. Disciple will still focus on the Taoist temple. Refining can wait. Don't worry about it. It's good that you have the intention to contribute to the dojo. Fortunately, there are always some disciples who have entered the treasure weapon secret realm to learn how to forge weapons. Unfortunately, none of them have been able to become famous in the treasure weapon secret realm and become a genius in forging weapons. Disciple is stupid, but I believe that hard work can make up for it. Alright, then I'll take you to see the people in the treasure-refining secret realm. This talisman contains information about the disciples who are cultivating in the treasure-refining secret realm. After you enter, get along well with them. I'll also ask them to cooperate with you and take care of you. Thank you, Elder Qiu. Regardless of whether or not Elder Qiu was really thinking from his perspective, Su Fang immediately bowed. After a while, the Star Origin Formation Elimination Competition had already ended, and they were preparing for the arena competition. And all of this had nothing to do with Su Fang. He had already become an eternal star child. From this moment on, he had surpassed most of the ordinary disciples in Huangfu Hao and become an elite disciple. Qiu Ranjing brought him and several of the higher-ups in Huangfu Daoist Temple to the back of the high-level area. Su Fang also walked past Qi Yanzi and the other geniuses. For some reason, Su Fang felt that Qi Yanzi was looking at him differently. Could it be that he had discovered that he was the person who had transmitted a message to him in the Silent Flame Plains? If this disciple joins our Earth Spirit Daoist Temple, he probably won't be able to. His body is too weak, and he's only at the Dual Dao Cave Immortal Realm. Dual Dao Cave Immortal Realm. In my memory, there has never been such a low-level eternal star child. The Star Origin Formation mainly relies on the cultivation of a young immortal. This kid's young immortal realm surpasses ordinary people. His physical body and cultivation base are weak. If he joins our Sword Formation Daoist Temple, he'll probably become a Sword Formation Grandmaster in the future. That's not necessarily true. Right now he seems delicious, but who knows if he'll be useless in the future. The surrounding elite disciples didn't hide their gazes. They sized up Su Fang as if they wanted to see through him. Various discussions continued to spread without the slightest taboo. Su Fang heard them clearly and understood the inner Daoist temples better. He didn't expect there to be so many Daoist temples. These disciples didn't come from the same Daoist temple, but their robes all had the symbols of the 9 Daoist temples. Senior Brother Luan. Under the attention of many elite disciples, Qiu Ranjing led Su Fang through the group of elite disciples. Behind them were dozens of old men. Their auras and cultivation bases were all at Qiu Ranjing's level. Everyone clasped their fists at Qiu Ranjing. After he returned the greeting, he led Su Fang to a thin old man. He was about 1.7 meters tall and wore a plain robe. When this old man was talking to Qiu Ranjing, Su Fang's right arm felt the smell of great pregnant purple qi coming from the old man's body. The old man surnamed Luan had the smell of great pregnant purple qi. Su Fang immediately asked for Luo's advice. Luo was always around. He wouldn't fall asleep. He said faintly, "This person is a master refiner. His main task is to refine weapons. As time passes, he will come into contact with more treasures. His body will naturally be contaminated with great pregnant purple qi. He probably wants to control the great pregnant purple qi. But I saw that there was only a little great pregnant purple qi in his body. It's not at your level." Su Fangda was shocked. "Luo, you're amazing. You can see that old man's body so quickly." "I have a special ability. My young immortal is also not ordinary. Also, I've lived for countless years. He's at most someone who is cultivated for hundreds of thousands of years. But he also has areas where I'm lacking. That is refining weapons. This person is a master refiner. You can follow him without worry." "Yes." He didn't expect this old man surnamed Luan to receive such praise from Luo. "Is that so, Huangfu Shaoying?" Qiu Ran was also having a good chat with the old man surnamed Luan. At this time, when Su Fang came back to his senses, the old man surnamed Luan sized up Su Fang for the first time. Being able to become the eternal star child at the cave Immortal Realm and Immortal Realm, he indeed has potential. But Junior Brother Qiu, you've given such a disciple with the ability to surpass realms to me. Your dojo is also willing to give him a better space to develop. Refining weapons is very boring and tedious. I've communicated with this disciple before. The dojo also has arrangements for him, but he insists on entering the treasure secret realm to become a refiner. I can't do anything about it. The dojo has to support any disciple's wishes. Senior Brother Luan, from now on, Shaoying will join your dojo. Chiu Ran cupped his fists towards the old man surnamed Luan and introduced him to Su Fang. This person was called Heavenly Master Luan, an elder of the treasure-refining secret realm. Of course, he was also one of the master refiners in the entire constellation of 9 heavens. Even in other worlds, he was a master refiner that everyone knew. Many of the treasures in the constellation of 9 heavens came from this person. Heavenly Master Luan took the disciple token from Su Fang in front of Chiu Ran. The two of them condensed true patterns and added them to the disciple token. When the token returned to Su Fang's side, his star robe instantly became more vast and different from before. There were many different clouds on it. It made Su Fang feel as if he had become a young master of a noble family. This star robe made him a big shot, and also the representative of the treasure secret realm's identity as an elite disciple. From then on, Su Fang cultivated in the treasure secret realm. Of course, he was also a disciple of the Huangfu Dojo. After a while, a middle-aged man similar to Su Fang's star robe suddenly walked over. He was also an elite disciple of the treasure secret realm, and also from the Huangfu Dojo. Su Fang immediately fused with the talisman that Chiu Ran had given him. After fusing with it, he learned that this person was called Huangfu Ju and was a disciple of the Huangfu clan. After Huangfu Ju was brought over, he practically bowed to Heavenly Master Luan. Heavenly Master Luan had him bring Su Fang to the treasure secret realm first. After walking out of the high-level area, Chiu Ran suddenly called Huangfu Ju over. Huangfu Xiaoying is one of us. You have to properly support him in the treasure secret realm so that he can quickly adapt. Disciple understands. Elder Chiu, don't worry. Since he's a member of my family, I'll definitely support him, Huangfu Ju replied. He immediately brought Su Fang out of the Eternal Star Peak. At this time, they were no longer in the 9 great dojos, but they were still in the outer dojo. Immortal clouds were churning in the sky. Su Fang suddenly bowed to Huangfu Ju. Senior apprentice brother Ju, I'll have to trouble you in the future. You and I are both disciples of the Huangfu clan. If there's anything, just tell me. I'm a newcomer, so I'll naturally follow senior apprentice brother's orders. Your words are very pleasing to the ear. Since you've said so, and Elder Chiu's orders, I'll naturally take good care of you in the treasure secret realm. I won't let you suffer. Huangfu Ju's sense of superiority suddenly arose. In front of Su Fang, he was like an elder. Chapter 1007. Huangfu Ju was a true descendant of the Huangfu bloodline. He had long since become one of the Eternal Star Sons and had joined the treasure item secret realm to cultivate. Seeing Su Fang act so courteously, he continued to lead Su Fang deeper into the secret realm. Gradually, they reached a deathly silence. Elder Chiu is right. You and I are both from the Huangfu clan, and we're from the same Dao sect. Since we've come to the treasure item secret realm, we naturally have to take care of each other. Huangfu Ju slowly looked ahead. The treasure refining secret realm is an incomparably mystical place within the inner Dao sections. It can be said that most of the sect's treasures come from the treasure refining secret realm. There are tens of thousands of inner disciples, and some of them are famous throughout the world. The treasures they refine are very popular. My Huangfu Dao sect has quite a bit of power here. As a newcomer, it'll be difficult for you to survive here without someone to take care of you. Junior apprentice brother will listen to senior apprentice brother in the future, said Su Fang honestly. He didn't have much of an opinion. He had some hope. He had thought that the disciples of the Huangfu Dao sect, who cultivated in the treasure refining secret realm, would all be geniuses like Qi Yanzi. But this Huangfu Ju only gave him the feeling that he was an expert. He wasn't as strong as Qi Yanzi. Huangfu Ju lacked that domineering aura. If he was an expert, perhaps he really would be of some help to him. Furthermore, He also knew that alchemy and weapon forging were extremely difficult to master. Only 1 out of 1,000 people could become a grandmaster alchemist. All of these required talent and hard work. Neither of them could be lacking. Huang Fuju brought Su Fang deeper into the 9 Dao sections. The clouds in the distance parted, and Huang Fuju continued, cultivating in the inner Dao sects isn't as easy as cultivating in the outer Dao sections. Disciples of the treasure item secret realm have to refine a treasure within a certain amount of time. Even if it's a substandard one, we still have to refine it. We often go out to find all kinds of materials, and we also go to the grand immortal realms to participate in all kinds of treasure appraisal conventions. Senior Brother Ju is definitely not an ordinary disciple in the treasure realm. Of course, I'm an elite disciple after all. However, I'm still far from being a truly powerful figure. Almost all of the disciples in the treasure refining secret territory are male. There are also some female disciples. Most of the geniuses are male disciples. They have cultivated for tens of thousands of years or even hundreds of thousands of years. They're so powerful that they can already refine magic treasures for themselves. Senior brother, did you say that the treasured artifact secret realm has tens of thousands of disciples? Yes, there are a lot of people. Up ahead is the void realm of the inner dojo. After passing through the void realm that looks like a dead ruin, you'll reach the inner dojo. There isn't much scenery there, it's all ruins of the ancient times. The inner dojo is built in the depths of these ruins within countless formations. Oh! Following Huang Fuju's guidance, there were indeed no mountains or rivers in front of them. It was as if they had left the constellation of 9 Heavens dojo and returned to the void of the natural ruins. Once they entered this void, there was an astonishing power of void shackles. It felt like this was to prevent external disciples from entering the inner world. If it weren't for Huang Fuju, Su Fang wouldn't have been able to cross this void realm. Fortunately, with Huang Fuju's reminder, he immediately activated the token at his waist. He didn't expect the token to emit a protective power that prevented him from being shackled. Moreover, there was a guiding force in the depths of the void ahead. It was probably the location of the treasure realm. Just as he expected, in a short while, they entered the depths of the void realm. It seemed that they were far away from the dojo, but a void distortion suddenly swept over and sucked Su Fang and Huang Fuju into the distorted formation. Swoosh! In an instant, Su Fang felt that his breathing and shackles had returned to normal. The formation in front of him was jumping, as if he had returned to reality from an illusion. Taking a closer look, there was no forest around. There were mountains, but there was no sign of life in the mountains. The bare rocks stood tall in the cold void. This was the void ruins outside the dojo, but Su Fang felt the natural shackles of the void. It seemed that this place was protected by an invisible formation. Huang Fuju pointed ahead. This is the treasure refining arcane realm, built in the natural void ruins deep in the dojo. The few desolate mountains, valleys, and peaks in front of us are where tens of thousands of disciples usually refine and cultivate. Let's fly. After the introduction, Huang Fuju rose into the air. The two of them gradually flew toward a large desolate mountain range in front of them at a height of 10 feet. There were ruins all around. The simplicity of the vast world was presented in front of them. Soon, in front of the mountain range, they saw valleys among the mountains, as well as peaks that stood tall on the mountain range. There was no sign of life at all, making them feel only respect for nature. These valleys are where everyone usually rests and meditates. Those peaks have celestial artifact spirit pools inside. That's where they refine their weapons. If you need to refine weapons, learn a lot of knowledge, and observe other disciples refining weapons, you have to go there. Celestial artifact spirit pools. The large number of peaks that stood tall on the mountain range turned out to be places for refining weapons. After Huang Fuju's introduction, there was already movement in his right arm. He didn't need to sense it to know that the primordial violet chi of the treasure-refining arcane realm was attracting the violet chi Dharma spirit. Furthermore, the violet chi Dharma spirit was constantly buzzing, but its movement was suppressed. If it wasn't, his right arm would be moving right now. The valley on the left is where most of the Huang Fu Dojo's disciples rest. I'll take you to walk around first, and then we'll go to the Celestial Artifact Spirit Pool to see those senior apprentice brothers. Huang Fuju brought Su Fang to the left. They were getting closer and closer to a valley. Soon, it became real. In front of them was a valley with strange rocks. It didn't have the beautiful scenery of an ordinary valley. It was like a rocky valley formed by an explosion. There were some caves on the cliffs that weren't naturally formed. Each cave was sealed by a formation, and each cave was separated by a certain distance. Looking from here, the valley was full of caves where all kinds of disciples cultivated. It was very spectacular. Looking out of the valley, there were magnificent cultivation peaks. Su Fang came here as if she had come to a wasteland. Looking at the ruined valley, there were cold stones and cliffs everywhere. It really didn't look like a dojo. The only thing that was gratifying was that the spiritual energy of heaven and earth here was several times that of the Huang Fu dojo. It was an excellent place for cultivation. Luo suddenly said, "From here, we can see that the constellation of 9 heavens is worthy of being called a big force. Often, the cultivation dojos of real forces have harsh conditions and are close to the most real nature. This way, the disciples can really come into contact with heaven and earth and cultivate the power of heaven and earth. Fortunately, I've stepped into the cave immortal realm. I don't think any of the disciples here are cave immortals. In such an environment, fortunately, I can quickly adapt with the cave immortal realm." After chatting with Luo, he followed Huang Fuju and flew through the valley. There were caves sealed by formations on both sides. No disciples were wandering outside. From time to time, a few disciples would fly down from the surrounding mountains and enter the surrounding cave. No one talked to Huang Fuju. "Look, almost all of the caves in the valley are disciples of our Huang Fu dojo who have successfully become the eternal star sun and stepped into the treasure secret realm. They have been here for at least 10,000 years. Almost all of them have been here for 10,000 to 50,000 years. Once they become strong, they can freely open up caves in the surrounding ruins. Disciples like us still have to continue cultivating here. I'll take you to see them." With a wave of her hand, Huang Fuju brought Su Fang to the cliff on the right. When they arrived at a cave, they first activated their aura. The immortal formation seal at the entrance of the cave was still there, but a primordial spirit figure appeared at the entrance of the formation. Even when it met Huang Fuju, it glanced coldly at Su Fang without any enthusiasm. Then, Huang Fuju met most of the disciples. Some of them were sky immortals, some of them surpassed sky immortals, and a few of them were existences whose cultivation could not be sensed. Su Fang was at least several realms away from the disciples who stood at the peak of this place. Moreover, it was very difficult to break through the realms after entering the cave immortal realm. Therefore, when these disciples saw that Su Fang was a cave immortal, their expressions all became smug. Fortunately, these disciples were recorded in the rune talisman that Qiu Ranjing had given them. Su Fang could remember all of them with just a glance. At this time, Huang Fuju brought Su Fang out of the mountain and flew to the mountain behind the valley. According to her, every disciple who entered the treasure secret realm had to go to a mountain and enter the heaven artifact spiritual pool to cultivate. There would be several senior brothers in charge of cultivation there. Su Fang was going to the nearest mountain to report. Of course, not all the disciples on this mountain were disciples of Huang Fu Dao sect. The disciples of Huang Fu Dao sect were scattered in 8 different mountains to cultivate. There was a clear rule that forbade any disciple to cultivate on the same mountain. This was probably to measure the relationship between the 9 Tao sects. As he approached the mountain, the purple Chi Dharma spirit in his right arm trembled and was about to be peeled off from the merged meridians in his arm. Great pregnant purple Chi. Because in the mountain, the heaven artifact's spiritual pool contained the world's most wonderful great pregnant purple Chi, and no one knew how much great pregnant purple Chi there was. Stopping breathing, Su Fong looked at the mountain in front of him. It was 1,000 feet high, like an oval-shaped stone pillar, standing abruptly in the mountain range. Su Fong felt that this mountain and the surrounding mountains did not seem to be natural, but man-made. After asking Huang Fuju, he found out that it was as he had expected. Aside from the valleys and mountain ranges, all the other peaks in this treasure tool's secret realm were created by the true big shots of the sect using great magic. It was truly uncanny craftsmanship. To be able to create such a realistic, tall, and mysterious mountain in the void ruins, Su Fong also possessed the divine might of the earth attribute, but he was unable to accomplish even a 10,000th of it. He estimated that if he wanted to truly see through this mountain, he would need to break through several realms. Extreme Celestial Pool Peak. After going a bit further, he arrived in front of a simple stone gate. Su Fong saw the words Extreme Celestial Pool Peak carved into the gate. It contained a powerful force that made him feel like he would faint just by looking at it. At this time, a disciple appeared at the gate. He seemed to be in charge of guarding the gate. As soon as he saw Huang Fuju and then looked at Su Fong, he said with surprise, "Junior apprentice Brother Ju, the Aeon competition still hasn't concluded, right? How did a disciple suddenly become the eternal star son, and he came from Huang Fu's Tao right?" Before replying, Ju told Su Fong that this person was called Huang Fu Liao. He was in charge of guarding the gate for 1,000 years. He could be considered an ordinary disciple here, but he was an old figure who had been here for 60,000 years. 60,000 years. Su Fong secretly sized up this Huang Fu Liao. He looked to be in his 40s, which would be middle-aged among mortals. But he didn't look dispirited at all. Instead, he was hale and hearty. He gave off the feeling that Su Fong didn't have Qi Yanzi's domineering aura. Huang Fuju walked in front of Huang Fu Liao and introduced, "Senior apprentice Brother Huang, this is my Tao writes Huang Fu Xiaoying. The Aeon competition has changed its format this time. My junior apprentice brother surpassed everyone else and became the eternal star son first. He obtained Elder Luan's permission to enter my treasure secret realm to cultivate. Please look after him." Chapter 1008. Is that so? Hearing Huang Fuju's grand introduction, Huang Liao started to size up Su Fong. No wonder the competition is still going on, and the ceremony hasn't been held yet. How can someone become the eternal star son? Looks like you, Huang Fu Xiaoying, are a good seedling. Su Fong also bowed to Huang Liao. No. Junior brother, you were just a bit lucky. That's all. Even now, I still can't figure out how I became the eternal star son. Otherwise, how could I, with my 2 Tao Cave Immortal Realm cultivation base, be qualified to step into the inner Tao right and become the eternal star son? Low-key, I like low-key people. Huang Liao lifted Su Fong up. However, I'm also considered an old man. I've been in the treasure's secret realm for more than 60,000 years. Think about the geniuses who became the eternal star sons with me. Some of them have already become powerful existences. I'm the only one who hasn't achieved anything. I can't refine weapons and I can't cultivate. You have to work hard. Overall, if you don't have talent, you can rely on hard work. But if you can't even work hard, then you're destined to be mediocre like me. Thank you for your teachings, senior brother. I'll definitely remember it. Huang Liao laughed at himself. How can I be qualified to teach others? Compared to you and me, it's just that the time of cultivation is different. I also know that you'll surpass me soon. At this moment, Huang Fuju said, Senior brother Huang, are senior brothers Qingkue and Yuan Yifang still here? I have to bring junior brother Xiaoying to meet them first. It'll be convenient for cultivation. Both senior brothers are here. Senior brother Qingkue is about to succeed in refining the Qing Yuan cauldron. During this time, many senior brothers have gathered here. They won't leave. Go. Thank you, senior brother. Su Fang followed Huang Fuju and bowed to Huang Liao before entering the door. After entering the majestic stone door, there was a scorching aura inside. In front of him was a huge hollow cave with many passages. Other than the scorching aura, there was also a shocking aura of magic treasures. There was also the great pregnant purple chi. If he didn't suppress his right arm and control the purple chi Dharma spirit, he would have already started absorbing all the energy here. Su Fang could also hear the sound of burning flames coming from the depths of the cave. This place felt like a furnace. The scorching aura was truly astonishing, making it impossible for Su Fang to calm down. Huang Fuju looked at the stone door behind him and whispered, Don't underestimate that senior brother Huang Liao. Although his cultivation isn't that great, he is very proficient in refining. Although he hasn't refined any peerless magic treasures, he has made some contributions. Although he can't compare to the senior brothers who have mostly cultivated for 60,000 years, he is still someone who knows everything. After listening, Su Fang nodded honestly and suddenly asked, Thank you for your reminder, senior martial brother. Oh right, the two senior martial brothers you mentioned, Qingkue and Yuan Yifang, are they peerless geniuses in the treasure-refining mystic realm? Of course, they are peerless geniuses. Both of them have cultivated for around 50,000 years. There are two reasons why we call them senior martial brothers here. First, you know how long they have cultivated, so naturally they are senior martial brothers. Second, the stronger they are, the more powerful they are. Even if they have cultivated for 1,000 years, they will still be called senior martial brothers. In the future, keep your eyes open and don't offend any senior martial brothers. Huang Fuju led Su Fang to a huge red tunnel that was shrouded in a scorching aura. The two senior martial brothers Qingkue and Yuan Yifang are both extraordinary existences. Among the tens of thousands of disciples in the treasure-refining mystic realm, they are one of the top existences. They have refined countless weapons and made a lot of contributions. They have been recognized by Elder Luan and the sect, and they have become the people in charge of the mountain dojos. They have a lot of power. Our daily affairs are handled by the two senior martial brothers, so we can't afford to offend them. Unfortunately, they are not from our Huangfu dojo. If they were, it would be much more convenient for you and me here. Then what about the Qingyuan cauldron? The Qingyuan cauldron is a high-grade magical treasure that senior martial brother Qingkue has been refining for thousands of years. It is a Dao item with the ability to refine weapons. I heard that when he went out to train, he obtained an incomplete refining manual about refining ancient cauldrons. After 10,000 years of studying and experimenting, he finally had a certain level of confidence and began refining the Qingyuan cauldron. That's incredible! Of course, once senior martial brother Qingkue succeeds in refining the Qingyuan cauldron, he will have made a huge contribution. In the future, he might even become a special disciple. Step by step, he will walk the path of a refining grandmaster. Then let's go take a look. Yes, I'll take you to the largest refining space in this dojo. The celestial artifact spirit pool is at the center. Normally, you can't go there. Only when you need to do so will you get permission from the two senior martial brothers. As they chatted, the scorching aura in the cave suddenly increased by 10 times. Su Fang's aura began to burn. Huang Fuju didn't find it strange. After all, Su Fang was only at the Dual Dao Cave Immortal Realm. However, he still felt that it wasn't simple. Only heavenly immortal realm disciples wouldn't be affected by the scorching aura. Suddenly, there was a bridge in front of them. It was a floating bridge in the middle of lava. Seeing this, Su Fang thought back to what he had experienced in the Silent Flame Desert. That lava waterfall had been so terrifying. If this floating bridge was gone, cultivators who fell into the lava would definitely be burned to death. Huang Fuju explained that these lava flames were used to refine weapons. They could burn all kinds of ores, gems, and immortal stones. Fortunately, walking on the floating bridge wasn't wobbly. Otherwise, it would be even more terrifying. The floating bridge was 1,000 meters long, and there were chains protecting it. Past the floating bridge was a large door. Activating the medallion, the door swung open. A huge cave appeared in front of Su Fang in an instant. In front of him, there were 3 spirit altars built in the cave that were almost like large stoves. Above them were 3 large cauldrons. The 2 cauldrons on the left and right were 5 zhang tall. As for the cauldron in the center, it was over 30 meters tall. Around the 3 cauldrons, there were hundreds of disciples sitting in the air. They didn't even blink as they stared at the cauldron in the center. Huang Fuju looked at Su Fang and saw that the latter was filled with shock and only had eyes for the 3 cauldrons. He couldn't help but sigh. Our celestial pool peak has dozens of cauldrons. These 3 cauldrons are the most powerful, especially the cauldron in the center. It's a primordial Tao artifact. Every peak in our treasure artifact secret domain has a peerless cauldron like this. Every disciple wants to refine artifacts there, but only the truly powerful disciples and those who have made enough contributions can refine artifacts there. Ancient treasures, they really are ancient treasures. Su Fang's heart was filled with indescribable shock. I didn't expect the cauldrons for the disciples to be ancient treasures. There are also many of these ancient cauldrons in the treasure item secret realm. I finally understand how terrifying a large power can be. He had made the right decision to come to the constellation of 9 heavens back then. He didn't regret it at all. Instead, he rejoiced. From the 3 cauldrons' auras, Su Fang sensed a shocking amount of primordial violet qi. It was unknown just how many treasures had been born from these 3 cauldrons. Huang Fuju said cautiously, "Don't be in such a rush. I've already notified senior apprentice brothers Qin Kuei and Yuan Yifang. They should still have some matters to attend to. Let's just wait. It's a pity I can't see the refining state of the Qin Yuan cauldron." But Su Fang didn't want to see his senior apprentice brothers. He wanted to see the refining scene. If there's a chance in the future, there will be other cauldrons in other cultivation caves. You have to take it one step at a time. Huang Fuju brought Su Fang and floated quietly in front of the door. Su Fang looked behind the 3 cauldrons and saw 2 disciples. They were around 30 years old and wore starry robes. They represented the treasure-refining secret realm. The 2 of them were naturally Qin Kuei and Yuan Yifang. One of them, a horse-faced man, was controlling most of the cauldron's aura. It was likely that he was Qin Kuei. Only a refiner could control most of the cauldron's aura. Looking closely at Qin Kuei and Yuan Yifang, the 2 of them had the aura of peerless geniuses like Qi Yanzi. They were very powerful. Looking at the hundreds of disciples around them, he couldn't see through their cultivation. None of them were cave immortals or heavenly immortals. They were all existences that surpassed the heavenly immortal realm. Su Fang could sense that they weren't the strongest or the weakest. They were all powerful experts. They waited for a few days. Yuan Yifang suddenly flew over. As for Qin Kuei, she was still controlling the cauldron. "You're here." Yuan Yifang and Qin Kuei looked very different. Qin Kuei had a slender face, while Yuan Yifang had a square face. He had high cheekbones, sword-like eyebrows, and a big nose. He nodded at Huang Fuju and then looked sharply at Su Fang. "You're Huang Fu Xiaoying. Elder Luan just sent me a message saying that the first disciple to become the eternal star sun will come here and enter our treasure-refining secret realm. It's you." Su Fang immediately bowed. Disciple Huangfu Shaoying greets senior apprentice brother. I'm willing to do anything to cultivate in the celestial pool peak from now on. I'll learn the art of refining from senior apprentice brothers. And normally, new disciples have to cultivate from the basic. Junior apprentice brother Ju will teach them what to do and the rules of our treasure refining secret realm and celestial pool peak. You're also a disciple of Huangfu Dao sect. You'll cultivate with junior apprentice brother Ju in the future. He'll help you get used to this place. Yuan Yifang stood with his hands behind his back. Don't worry, senior apprentice brother. Then we won't delay senior apprentice brother's important matters. After bowing to Yuan Yifang, Huangfu Ju brought Su Fang out of the central cave. After leaving, Su Fang felt much more relaxed. This passage also contained a long history of primordial violet qi. To him, this place was a cultivation paradise. Don't think that Yuan Yifang is easy to talk to. He won't be merciful when punishing disciples. Back then, when I committed a crime, I ended up in his hands. Fortunately, it's all over now. You probably won't see Qingkue and Yuan Yifang in the future. They passed through the floating bridge and left this hot passage. He then brought Su Fang to another passage. At the end of the passage was a cave much smaller than the central cave. There were dozens of disciples refining treasures around several cauldrons. These cauldrons were all high-grade treasures. Although they weren't ancient treasures, their quality wasn't bad. They then went to the other caves. Most of them were refining treasures. Some of them were guarded by disciples. They were forbidden areas where all kinds of materials were stored. One had to register before entering. He originally wanted to see the heavenly artifact spirit pool, but he had no choice. It was something that disciples like him couldn't see. In the end, he returned to the valley with Huangfu Ju. Su Fang wasn't a spoiled brat. Whichever cave Huangfu Ju told him to enter, he would obediently listen. He could be considered to have a cave like the one in the treasure refining secret realm. It was just that the location was ordinary. This was the difference in status. Chapter 1009. Su Fang came to the cave. First, he set up a barrier around the entrance of the cave. He also had to set up a formation inside the cave. Otherwise, the cold air in the ruins would restrict the spirit qi and prevent the cave from absorbing the qi of heaven and earth. After setting up the formation, the cave was still cold. The rocks were colder than ice. After all, this was the real ruins. Everything had been baptized by time. The area inside the cave was not small. There were traces of excavation everywhere. Su Fang took out some low-grade celestial stones and set them on the surrounding walls. Soon, the light inside filled the cave. Then, he took out some celestial stones and gems to create an altar. He condensed a few chairs and round tables around him. After setting it up, it still looked simple, but it was not as cold as before. After resting for a few days, Su Fang was adapting to the desolate qi of heaven and earth here. Huangfu Ju came looking for him. Of course, he was not the only one. There were also a few disciples from Huangfu Training Hall. Huangfu Ju explained the purpose of his visit. He wanted Su Fang to invite the disciples from Huangfu Training Halls nearby to gather here. To put it bluntly, he wanted to give everyone some benefit. They were all disciples above the heavenly immortal realm. Why did they have to trouble a cave immortal? It seemed that everywhere was bullying. Su Fang could only follow their wishes and visit each and every one of their cave residences. This was like sticking his face to their butt. In the end, he only managed to invite a dozen or so people. Su Fang took out middle-grade immortal essence pills to entertain these people, as well as some good spiritual items. After chasing these people away, Su Fang left the treasured artifact arcane realm. He wanted to return to Huangfu Training Hall to bring some items back. Also, the competition had ended. He wanted to see baby Huangfu. Fortunately, as an elite disciple, he could enter and leave the training hall freely. 2 hours later, he returned to Huangfu Training Hall's side peak. He also saw baby Huangfu. This guy had successfully become the eternal star son and even joined the vast ancient mystery dimension to cultivate. Vast ancient mystery dimension. This was the first time Su Fang heard about it. It turned out that the vast ancient mystery dimension mainly cultivated supernatural powers and the many secret techniques of the constellation of 9 heavens. It was a mystery dimension that truly cultivated strength and Tao technique. It was unlike the treasured artifact arcane realm, which mainly cultivated weapons. Those true geniuses were the existences of the vast ancient mystery dimension. For example, Huang Fu Fei was once a disciple of the vast ancient mystery dimension. Huang Fu Xiao Xiao also cultivated in the vast ancient mystery dimension. That was not a place that ordinary disciples could enter. Baby Huang Fu had yet to become one of the top 10 Eternal Star Children's disciples, but he had a good grandfather. It was not difficult for him to enter the vast ancient mystery grounds. If it were any other ordinary Eternal Star Children, they would not be qualified to enter. After chatting for a while, the baby Huang Fu became excited. I also just came back from the conferring ceremony. I also heard that you went to the treasured artifact mystic realm. Sai, if I had known, I would have brought you with me to the vast ancient mystic realm. I'm very interested in artifact forging. Entering the secret realm is also my idea. Elder Chiu has also agreed. Su Fang did not want to enter the vast ancient secret realm. If he went there, how could he fuse the purple Qi Dharma spirit with himself? How to upgrade the Dharma treasures? As for strength, he believed that even in the treasure arcane realm, he could still become strong through hard work. Haha! Who would have thought that baby Huang Fu would suddenly jump to his feet? I only learned later that you actually defeated that insufferably arrogant Nangong Xiu. Wonderful, truly wonderful! Su Fang suddenly thought of that scene. Brother Bao, if you hadn't brought it up, I would have forgotten about it myself. Nangong Xiu and Nangong Jun were too overbearing. I had no choice. Who does Nangong Jun think he is? He only relies on his genius brother to act like a tyrant. In front of me, he has to crawl like a dog. However, that Nangong Xiu really is a genius. He also successfully became one of the top 10 Eternal Star Children's disciples. Is that so? Nangong Xiu really is strong. Nangong Xiu's young immortal was defeated by you. How tyrannical! After the star origin formation, news of your defeat spread. Nangong Xiu was infuriated. Although he was defeated by you, his physical body, strength, and cultivation base were all terrifying. I wasn't his match. In the end, he became a peerless genius. But now, everyone is talking about how you defeated him in the star origin formation. I was just lucky. That Nangong Xiu was unlucky. He reaped what he sowed. You're usually very arrogant. Just because you're a genius, you consider everyone beneath you. Now, his enemies can step on his head. You're even more famous than the top 10 Eternal Star Children's disciples. Plus, you're the first person in the sect to become an Eternal Star Child's disciple with a cultivation base of Immortal Cave. Even my big sister was shocked when she heard the news. If I had known, I would have asked her. I didn't know that I would become an Eternal Star Child through the star origin formation. Actually, you care too much about this. Although you've entered the treasured tool secret domain, you're still a disciple of the Huangfu Dojo. This is something that can't be changed. Oh right, I have a lot of soul-strengthening pills that big sister gave me. I'll give you 100 of them, all of which are mid-grade pills. In the future, I'll go to the treasured tool secret domain to look for you from time to time. You have to work hard. In the future, I'll look for you when I have any problems with magic treasures. At this time, Baby Huangfu finished talking with a smile and suddenly took out a storage ring. He carefully handed it to Su Fang. It turned out that there were 100 mid-grade soul-strengthening and condensing pills inside, which were very precious. Only heavenly immortal disciples could have such treasures. Su Fang refused, but he couldn't win against baby Huangfu. In the end, he took it. He went back to the palace to pack up and asked Red Kite to go to the precious tool secret realm. When he was about to leave, he suddenly received a message from Huangfu Fei. She wanted him to go to the dojo. He took Red Kite to the sky above the cliff and asked it to wait at the side. He went into the formation alone. Stepping through the formation, he saw a strange formation mysterious realm in front of him. Huangfu Fei stood among the many nebulas and turned around to look at Su Fang with a cold and arrogant gaze. This time, you gave me a big surprise. You became an eternal star child in a short time, and the first eternal star child. Huangfu Fei said directly, "It can be seen that your potential is really amazing. You're also an excellent disciple. It's just that you went to the precious tool secret realm. I'm only in the cave immortal realm. It's hard for me to adapt to other secret realms. Moreover, I've always been interested in refining weapons." He bowed and said honestly, "So be it. Your realm is indeed a weakness. If you're a sky immortal, I'll let you enter the vast ancient secret realm. Now, I'll let you leave the precious tool secret realm. But since you're willing to focus on refining weapons, I also hope that my Huangfu dojo will have a genius disciple." It just so happens that Bao Bao went to the vast ancient mystery dimension, which is where I used to cultivate. For him, he can be forged. I also told the elders they're not to be biased. It just so happens that Bao Bao mainly cultivates Dao arts while you study weapon forging. You can complement each other in the future. I want Bao Bao to become an elder in the future and still control the Huangfu Dao sect, so he needs someone to help him. Since you are so talented, you should take up this responsibility. From now on, when you cultivate in the weapon secret dimension, if you encounter any difficulties, just say the word, and no one will make things difficult for you. Thank you, Mississippi. Here are 1,000 mid-grade soul strengthening and condensing pills. When you run out, just come and find me. I'll also pay special attention to your actions in the precious tool secret realm. If you perform well, I can even find you an excellent female disciple to be your Dao companion. Forget about Dao companions. I like to cultivate alone. You don't like Dao companions. The Ruoshui spiritual land and the Bodhi spiritual world have always produced beauties. So many male disciples want to have the female disciples there as their Dao companions. You don't want them? I'm focused on cultivation. I'm a cave immortal. I don't want to waste my energy on those things. Then why do you want to bring a female servant to the precious tool secret realm? She's been with me for a long time. If I don't take her with me, I don't think I'll have a good life in the future. I'm just bringing her with me to do some simple chores in the dojo. This has nothing to do with Dao companions. Also, I'm just a cave immortal. How can I be qualified to ask the female disciples of the Ruoshui spiritual land and the Bodhi spiritual world to be my Dao companions? It's easy for you to get a female servant. I can let my female servant serve you. Thank you for your kindness. Mississippi young master gave me a lot of pills just now. He's his. I'm just showing my sincerity. Take it. Go. In the end, Huangfu Fei wasn't able to persuade Su Fang. She forcefully took out a storage ring and sent it out of the mysterious realm along with Su Fang. As soon as they left the formation, they felt a chill in their hearts. Huangfu Fei was too strong. She was even stronger than Qi Yanzi. If they were targeted and controlled by such a woman, their future days wouldn't be good. If they went along with her, their lives would be good. If they went against her will, it would be hard for them to even die. Sir, you're bringing me to the inner dojos. Is that okay? Flying out of the 9 great Tao temples, it arrived in the desolate air. Just as it was about to enter the treasure mystic realm, the frail red kite suddenly felt fear. Su Fang shook her head. I asked those senior apprentice brothers before. You can also bring people to the inner dojos. As long as you abide by the rules and don't go to those cultivation dojos, there won't be any problems. If I don't bring you with me, your days won't be good. Of course, if you don't want to, I won't force you. Of course I'm willing. Thank you for being so considerate. Red Kite lowered her head and didn't say anything. Following closely behind Su Fang, she stepped into the twisting void. In an instant, they arrived in the air above the treasure item's secret realm. She quickly entered the mountain valley and returned to her immortal cave. Su Fang was in a side cave. Red Kite had been cultivating here ever since. With so many formations, although they seemed to be in the same immortal cave, they were actually separated by an astonishing distance. The constellation of 9 heavens' treasure item's secret realm is extraordinary. There's spiritual chi everywhere, and it's filled with the aura of magic treasures. It just so happens that I can also use this aura to cultivate a Tao item. Red Kite was alone in the formation. After it finished packing its belongings, a strange dark red color suddenly surged out of its ordinary eyes. Next, if there's a chance, I'll leave this place with Huangfu Shaoying. It's time to complete the mission the palace master gave me. At this time, in the depths of the immortal cave, Su Fang had already begun to cultivate while looking through some ancient texts regarding the treasure item's secret realm. He was about to start learning the art of refining. What surprised him was that even ordinary places like the treasure item's secret realm also contained traces of great pregnant purple chi in the natural aura. It just so happened that he activated the constellation of 9 heavens and began to absorb the great pregnant purple chi. At the same time, he cultivated the power of the world. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth was several times more abundant. Chi. Half a year later, while cultivating quietly and crazily absorbing all kinds of energy to cultivate the world fragments, heavenly grottos, and fuse with the purple chi spirit, a shocking amount of tribulation chi suddenly erupted from his body. He broke through. Su Fang was very calm. This was something he had expected. With his cave immortal and dual Tao realm, there would be a shocking difference when he came to the inner immortal cave. Especially at the beginning of his cultivation, it would bring him shocking changes. This was also the reason for the explosion of tribulation chi. Cave immortal and dual Tao realm. Keep getting stronger and breaking through. Only then will I be qualified to enter the celestial extreme pool peak and absorb large amounts of great pregnant purple chi. During the process of breaking through, Su Fang felt the transformation brought about by the breakthrough. P.S. Updated at 8 a.m. and 17 p.m. If you have friends in Nanjing, you can contact me. Let's meet up. I'm QQ6949900351. I'll only be in Nanjing for 3 days. Author's words. Tomorrow I'll be going to Nanjing to organize the annual meeting. From the 12th to the 15th, I'll be updating twice a day. This can't be helped. Everyone, please forgive me. If I don't update these days, I'll make up for it in the future. The weather has been very cold recently, so please keep warm. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.